think it was this other artist named Banjo quoted it in this film. Basically, we were able to start talking through our work, right? Like we were able conversations. Yeah, we could start having conversations like you know.
First things first, do you mind introducing yourself so everyone knows who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Nathan Purcell. I go by JustAnotherGlassblower, and I also run a online virtual gallery that is called JustAnotherGallery. I'm based in Philadelphia. I've traveled a lot. My gallery's been in a couple different places in different time periods and had a couple different names, but I've been running a gallery for about 15 years.
Word.
And I've been blowing glass 23 years.
Nice. And so we met in Mexico about a month ago in Tulum.
Correct.
At a bar that was recommended to me by many people. Like I had to go. They're like, this is the last live music on earth. Like as far as we're concerned. You know? So I went there with a couple homies that I met there. And we got chatting. So,
yeah.
So I'm glad to have you actually like here in the city.
Yeah. You know, I actually have an infatuation with New York. I think it's obviously one of the main art hubs in the world.
Totally.
And I think especially now we're going to see a real, I think, renaissance in New York. I mean, this is my first time. Well, I was back here in September of last year, and I came up for just one night. I stayed in Lower East Side, but I didn't take any trains. I kind of parked in front of my hotel, walked around a little bit. And, you know, there was people out, but on this trip here, it's definitely the first time I've like kind of taken the train and got to see the more inner workings of what's going on here. And there's no one here.
Yeah,
I mean, like literally, it's like
it's kind of a ghost town.
It really is, and I think that you know, out of this, what we were talking about earlier, like this chaos or the like, how the city's kind of rotted to the core at some point. That from that rot, you get fertilizer, and it's going to breed something else that I think that we've never seen. Totally. At least we like hope so, right? I mean, the hope is that. We as people and people in New York especially can like, you know, want to be back here, want to do business here. And I think people are like itching for it. I mean, the past year people have been really locked down, period.
Yeah,
you know?
And there's been a lot of people who've left the city. So to sort of see who's
left. I mean, you can tell that's it. I mean, people like most people that live in New York have enough money that they're like, they have
a spot,
another spot to like go to.
Yeah, but there's people who live here and like they don't have anywhere to, like New York isn't going anywhere.
No, definitely not.
People got their eye on New York, which I think is really interesting. It's like this moment in time where all of the big, you know, corporations and stuff, they're sort of being stifled a little bit by their mass almost. Yeah. It's like to be lean these days is almost a bit better. You see all these corporate buildings.
Well, it's less risk, you know, and I think like people are also realizing that some of their business can function without maybe having to people like work to the core.
Totally, exactly.
You know? And I think that
it's got to a boiling point, and almost it feels like it got where
people just couldn't even work anymore. Totally. I mean, like they couldn't work any more hours. Yeah. You have so many people that have to have multiple jobs.
And everyone in New York is paycheck to paycheck. It's it doesn't matter how rich you are, like you're paying for the spot that you're in. You know what I'm saying? So once that goes away and everything's so hiked up, something like the pandemic that happened, it sort of pulls the rug out from all of that.
I mean, I think we've seen in every country and city like the true, like the cracks have opened up, and we've seen like the inner workings of like how things are actually really fucked up. And
totally.
Like, there wasn't a big safety net for lots and lots of people.
Totally.
You know?
And that's been super exposed. And I'm very excited about the opportunity, you know, to like be on that forefront of people who are still creating stuff and want to get into these interesting spaces. There's so many old buildings.
Well, this space here is really cool. So what's this hotel called again?
It's called the Roger Smith Hotel.
Yeah, and we did a little bit of research last night. And it's from like 1925, and then it was rebought in 1938 or something.
Yeah, it's
and,
been the
and
Roger Smith basically since then. Is that? The,
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so there's 100 buildings.
I'm about to say, like, why don't you explain a little bit about your situation here? Because I actually came up here to kind of see this.
Yeah.
I think this is a really cool thing that this would have never happened if the pandemic
Totally.
never happened.
Totally.
You know what I
It's
mean?
like-
So this
exactly.
is an interesting spot.
Yeah, so basically my situation here is I've been recruited by the owner to sort of expand culturally. Right now they can't really expand economically, or, you know, the whole game is changing.
Mhm.
So the idea is to come in here, fill this place with artists, show that there's energy. We can, like, artists create products that people can see, you know, and that's what people are looking for right now.
Mhm.
They're looking for basically products and ideas, new ideas, you know, like movies are terrible now. There's like not even movies coming out. So it's like
Yeah.
the artists right now, the people who are actually creating stuff.
The drive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The creative drive. So this guy is trying to, like, let people use a space to get creative, and hopefully, you know, I guess work towards a goal of creativity, and hopefully the money will help follow with it.
Totally.
Right?
And you know, like, we're trying to be like high level artists making money. Like, this is going to eventually roll into some opportunities for all of us, ideally. And it's sort of you know, the family themselves are very, very artist friendly, and they've always been. So this right now is a time for them to really put their foot forward and say, like, we've got a bunch of empty rooms. We're artist friendly.
and exactly where are we located at in New York City?
So we're in Midtown. We're on 47th and Lexington. So we're kind of on the east side of Midtown. And yeah, basically the idea is to get artists in, creating stuff. Originally, there was an artist in residency program here, which would be artists coming in to be inspired by the space and to create artwork, basically, you know, around the space. So we had illustrators come in and sort of draw some of the, like, you know, the furniture. There's a bunch of lamps all over this place.
This place has got some really old stuff. I mean, just the wallpaper alone in some of these places is just like, I mean, you go back in time.
Totally, and that's how it feels, like you're walking
around. This isn't some, like, modern hotel. This is a hotel
like
that's
Marriott,
it's been, like, maybe renovated back in 1970 or 1980 or something.
Yeah, and so the idea is, you know, if you bring all of, there's like an alchemaic idea of if you have, you know, this person who does this thing and this person who does that thing, maybe there's a collaboration there that could create something different, you know? Like, we've got a guy who's a writer here now, and he's done a bunch of stuff. He writes speeches, he writes, you know, newspaper articles and stuff like that. So for me, my brain doesn't work. Like, I can't sit in front of a computer and just type words for out. He's automatic.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Everyone has got something that they're good at.
Totally.
You know,
and so us brainstorming, we could come up with the idea of, let's, you know, do these live stream shows. We can write an article about it.
And that's what your focus is working on these live stream shows, correct?
Yeah. So my project, my main project here, and it has been, is live stream production. So super high quality live stream shows that we can broadcast around the world. People in every corner of the earth can see an amazing show online that's not trying to substitute for live music, but to create a whole new visual experience. So you can use media in different ways. You could have different people in different places. You could get the idea, the cool idea, which I haven't executed quite yet, is to take these live stream shows and project them in different cities. So to go to, like, Berlin, Mexico City, Ho Chi Minh City, you know, Johannesburg, and have a team that's just projecting all those shows and with, like, good music, good video. I think that would be super, you know, that would be dope. For lack of a better term.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing here. I'm sort of doing this. I'm trying to sort of curate, and I'm very much artist heavy focus. Like, whatever, everything is second or third to just the art right now. That's sort of my position and what I want to, you know, create, what I want to do. Yeah. So that's basically that. I've told that. You know, I've tried to explain. It's really weird. It's not like, you know, there's no, like,
there's no real, like, definition exactly, or, like, you're trying to put up walls exactly what you do, but basically you're trying to do some virtual stuff that people can see live and be able to see a part of culture wherever that live stream is,
Yeah.
and it spread it to other places.
And you
right?
can radiate out from that. So
Mhm.
say there's a show that we're projecting from New York City that's in Mexico City, but then there's also that team that can just produce shows there,
Mhm.
and that will radiate out to
Mhm.
their culture.
Yeah.
And then we can
You can
take
stream
that
it
show,
back.
we
Yeah,
can stream it back,
Yeah,
cool.
cool.
And stream that to other cities, and have different hubs.
Yeah.
For me, that's sort of we spoke last night a little bit about it, and what I do is production. But what my goal is to just spread culture and, give people an opportunity to get the best things in the world and see the best things, even if they're not, most people, 99% of the world will never come to New York City. So it's like,
Yeah, right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like either not able to, whatever the circumstances,
yeah.
visas, whatever, they're not going to be able to come. So I can say like, we'll bring that to you.
You know what? I mean, in some ways it can be an intimidating city,
Totally.
and it's like, especially because it's a real jungle here.
Totally.
It's its own concrete jungle, obviously, but
Yeah,
it can be intimidating for sure. I mean, just even parking, you're like, all right, I got to read how many paragraphs to make sure,
Yeah.
and like,
you're not sure anyways.
Yeah, you're not sure anyways,
Yeah.
so.
And that's what's really interesting. There's a surface level to New York, which is like either, you're visiting somewhere like Rockefeller Center, you're visiting these tourist places, but then there's actual like, there's a culture that lives here, and it's super high energy. And there's like this level of like,
and there's so many areas of that too.
Totally.
I mean, like, it's like, to be honest with you, I've never been to the Bronx. You know what I mean? Like, I've never been there. I've been to, I've been to Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's far. I mean,
to
get there is kind of.
I want to go eat there. I've heard there's a lot of really good food there,
yeah.
but like, I just honestly, I don't know anyone there. Actually, I know someone now. Her name is Claw Money. She's a graffiti artist and a designer, like up here, and she invited me out. So I am going to go. I just haven't been yet.
But you're right. There's so much going on.
I mean,
and
it's so big. You'll never see it.
Everyone's so talented. Like, if you go, whatever the big fish in your city was, probably came to New York, or is like that type of person is here. So everyone is just like, so exponentially, like they're so talented that it like blows your mind.
Well, I mean, you pretty much have to be to survive, right?
Totally.
Like you're a product of,
and
you're a product of your environment,
Totally.
And if like your environment says, hey, your expertise or whatever need to be like better than the next guy or the next woman,
or
like,
what justifies you being here more
Yeah.
than, even if it's, you're just an artist, not just an artist, but if you're not working for, an employer.
Yeah.
And you're, like, what can justify, like you said, you have to pay your bills and you have to produce something that's dope.
Yeah,
and just
much.
the grind of that, like your justification of your existence in this city that's like packed with people. It was packed with people.
Yeah, it was packed. I mean, wow. I mean, last night was Friday night. We went from Midtown to Williamsburg, and we took down the A train to
the 6. We took the
6 to the L
yeah.
And the L. I mean, the L train.
Like 2 years ago on a Friday night, you would have seen all.
There would have been no room. I mean, you might have to wait for the next train.
Totally,
you know what I mean?
Totally,
it's
yeah.
like, and there was no like acrobatics or like crazy performances like normal on the train. You just like it's a different world here. But I definitely hope that with like, the vaccines and herd immunity, and that it's not like I hope things are going to come back to somewhat normalcy here. I think that people that have left New York, they had a big dream of living in the suburbs or living out in the middle of nowhere. But honestly, if you're used to living in a city like that, over time, you get burnt out from like not having that entertainment or like, access to things why you would live here. But I can see why everyone left. I mean, like
totally.
The like during the beginning of like the coronavirus epidemic, or pandemic, I guess, in Philadelphia. I mean, we were just down the road, so it was like we're seeing all the media and all like just like lines and lines of people. I mean, dude, it was fucking scary.
Totally, man. That's where I was at. I was when it first kicked off last March, I was sort of like, this is just some some whatever, it'll go. Like 2 weeks, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then I like read a stat with like thousands of people dying every day. I'm like, how many people live in this city? Can that
many people die, right?
Can 1,000 people die every day for like 200 days?
I mean, that's right. It's a fucked up, but it's true.
And I was like, all right, maybe I should just. And it was just I was stuck in
your little ass apartment.
My little ass apartment.
Dude, I mean,
I couldn't get food after like 8 o'clock.
So last year on February 28th, I got hit by a car on like my bicycle.
Shit.
And
Philly?
In Philadelphia, and broke my leg. And it was leap year, so there was an extra day in February. So I was in the hospital pretty much from February 28th till I think March 5th. Basically had what they called a tibia plateau, which is like fucked my tibia up at the very top near my knee. Yeah. So I had to wait 5 days to make sure that they could control the swelling, and before they opened me up to actually do this crazy surgery to make sure that I can somewhat walk again, you know, which they did, and you know I'm super thankful for that. But honestly, like while I was in there, I felt like, I don't know if you ever seen The Walking Dead, but like when Rick wakes up in the very first like episode, he's in the hospital and it's like the apocalypse has already happened.
He's like trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean that was literally like, it wasn't exactly me because I was never like fully knocked out, but by the time that they like the first hours there, I was so pumped up on fucking morphine and shit for days.
You were loopy.
I mean, you're fucked up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like I've had a major break, right? And
you had to have surgery, like
like major surgery. Yeah. So those 5 days that I was there was the beginning of it. Was the beginning of the fucking pandemic, and so I could see people were like almost scared to start coming to visit me. The doctors, I could tell where their tensions were going up. I saw people switch over to start wearing masks inside.
Oh wow.
And it was like a certain level of like, hey, you're in the ICU. This unit will become the fucking coronavirus unit, right? Yeah, and you need and they're like, we're gonna get you they did everything they could to push me out as soon as possible, safely, you know. And I got out, and then I stayed at like my folks' house for about 2 weeks. Directly after that, and they live out in the actual suburbs. I mean, they live a life where they live together with like my grandmother, and they're quarantined every day anyway. They're not like seeing.
They live quarantined.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
like my mom. She's like, she doesn't socialize really with people anyways. So.
Yeah. I mean, same here. So it was like, you know, it was a blessing in disguise. It was like I got to really live with my family again. It was actually really. As much as it sucked for me, it was actually really good for my relationship with my family. It really, like, me being hurt brought us all together, and actually just watched the whole pandemic from there. And then, like, obviously I needed my own space again, and I moved back downtown to Philadelphia, and I lived in my little apartment. And
you said you live in Fishtown. Is that where it's at?
Yeah. In Fishtown is what it's called.
So I was in me and my homie, just a little sidebar, about 2 or 3 years ago. I've been to Philly a couple times, never really as like a grown adult. I can just do whatever, like I can rent a car or whatever. Yeah. So me and my homie, we after the Super Bowl, after the Eagles won.
Oh shit, you came out for that.
We were at a bar, and like down the street from the bar we were at last night, and we were like, yo, should we just rent a car and drive to Philly? Like now, it's like 8 or 9 o'clock, you know. Yeah. And so we got a car to go. You know, the little, like, smart cars?
The little Johns? Yeah, the little fucking toy cars?
Yeah, we got one, and we drove it to Philly. Okay. Slept in, like, a parking lot in a Walmart.
And was it what you wanted to see or what?
When we got there, like it boiled over and it was over.
It was like too late.
But you could see carnage.
I mean, Philly loves to riot. They'll riot over anything.
There was so much carnage in the streets, though.
I mean, they fucking grease the poles, dude. I mean, like that's what they do. I mean, Philly will like all we need is any excuse to riot, and we're there. You know what I mean?
It was cool though. We went to like South Street.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely like, you know, a super tourist spot that they used to that would definitely be like a main area, especially in like the 90s and like early like 2000s. But you know, honestly, that whole area died out a lot. It used to be what I would say like the artsy district at one point.
Yeah, I went there when I was like 17, which is probably about like 12 years ago. And yeah, it was like skate shops and like
for some reason that like whole district just really just
dried up.
Dried up.
Yeah, it got too commercial and too boring and
I mean like that's where like I used to skateboard downtown when I was a kid at Love Park, and we would go skate from downtown Love Park to South Street to go get a Jim's cheesesteak, and then we'd stop at Tower Records.
Tower Records,
yeah. And I remember I got my Gravediggers CD there. It was like my first CD or like my second CD, and like you know, like living in Philly, like obviously I've always, well not obviously, but I've always like loved hip hop, and you know, skateboarding downtown. I mean, those are great, great childhood.
That era in Philly, like
memories.
Because I was a skater, and there's like stories of Love Park. Obviously, Love Park like lives on. Like
I mean, it's definitely not. I mean, they really
renovate.
They demolished it, and it's totally changed. I mean, it you know. One of the things that was crazy there is that, you know, skateboarding was banned. I mean, originally in like the 90s they didn't give a fuck. Then like over I guess the early 2000s they started to like really enforce it, you know. And then like they enforced it, where then we're ticketing people, and like people like, you know, if you don't pay your tickets and shit, these are street kids and they're not paying their fucking tickets. I mean, they can get locked up, right? And so then the crazy thing is that
like, for like warrants, like if you don't pay the ticket,
exactly, for a warrants, and then you're, you know what I'm saying?
Next time they pop you,
you know what I mean? They got reason to, you know, and I don't know if that was ever enforced, because I never had that problem personally, but I know that can happen. You know, if you don't pay your ticket, you can get a warrant, and then it's like
jail time.
A
couple days or a day, 24 hours or something.
Who knows?
Weekend or something.
Something. I mean, it depends on what day too, you know. But the thing was that was crazy is that they allowed, like after about 2 years of that, they allowed the skateboard X Games to come to Philly
and like set up in Love Park, and they let that all happen after, like, and people were like, what the fuck, you know, like, you like for years like ban these kids that just need an actual place to like go to. Have a ledge.
Well, just like, dude, it was like a safe spot, safe as possible, I mean, for Philly, you know, to like, for like younger people to have a place to go be creative. I mean, right? I mean, it's like skateboarding to me was like this because I skateboarded a lot. It was it was my first, like, I would say my first art form that like spoke to me, right? And it's super introverted, right? It's like a game against yourself.
But I would say there's a social aspect. That's where that's the thing. I had my first like team, like, you know, not like interactions that was only merit based. Like everyone, like, you know, you hated like bikers, you hated rollerbladers.
You definitely hated both those people.
You know, so they were already on a lower level, and then there was just like, other than that, it's just like everyone's trying to help everyone get better. If you're skate, you're better than the bikers.
Definitely right, but it's not like you need a team to do it. You can do it by yourself too, which was like I like that part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean at Love Park, I mean every day there'd be a whole squad there.
Yeah, exactly, homies.
Yeah, it's cool.
They used to call me Kareem.
Kareem, that's what's up.
Kareem Campbell. I was a black skater in the crew. But there was so many.
Wait. I mean I know that actual name, like he was a skateboarder from back in like in like the early 90s.
Totally,
correct?
exactly.
Right? Okay,
yes.
Yeah, I've seen him on like I think it was like the virtual, like I think he rode for Plan B.
Yeah, maybe.
I think so.
It was dope, man. Growing up skating, that was like the first, like, I would say, like, you know, activity, like socially, and there was a code, like among us. There was like no drugs, no drinking. Like that wasn't. They were like discouraged that.
Yeah.
In the skating, and I know there would be some people that would do that, but
I think there's definitely different squads, because like
there's some
like I pretty much went from skating. Like, all right, I was like skateboarding, and I'm like, oh, girls, drugs. I think I'm done skating.
But it wasn't like, it was like the older kids were doing that.
Yeah.
And like there was some kids that I could specifically remember that were trying to take it super seriously.
Well, here's I mean, honestly, what like happened to like me is I was taking it really seriously pretty much from like 5th grade till like 8th grade. And I actually went to Woodward skate camp from North Carolina. Like I wasn't even living in Pennsylvania at that time.
One of my homies went, the guy I'm thinking about.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, for like
that was the goal. Like,
I mean, for a young kid to go there, I mean, it had like a skateboard camp, and then it was mixed with this gymnastics camp, which was kind of cool too, because there's like a bunch of hot girls there. I mean, that was great for like a youth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like dreams come true.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So like but what happened is my family moved from North Carolina to the suburbs of Philadelphia, and we moved between my 8th grade and 9th grade year that summer, and so when I was skateboarding heavy, like that's when I was going to like Love Park. I think this is like 1994, and was going skating a lot. That was like my whole life, like after school, like after like like we still like how our school systems were like set up in my region was that 9th grade wasn't sharing the same school as like 10th through 11th, like a normal high school.
So 9th was middle school?
9th was still junior high, but it was technically still considered high school. I have no idea. I think it's just because of like the actual population of they had to break it up this way. But that 9th grade year, it was the first time that I lived in like the Northeast. Well, it was the first time I lived in the Northeast as like a real, I guess, more of an adult. You know, I was like 15, and that winter they had the craziest winter of like sleet and snow. In North Carolina, we never got that. It was like it would rain, you know, but I'd skate all year. It would just be colder, you know, but it was like a thing that was in my life.
All the time.
And then here, once the like winter time hit,
it's a wrap.
It was a wrap, and that's it. And there was no indoor spots, and like I skated mainly street, you know. So I never rode. I rode transition only at Woodward. Like I didn't even have like really access to it.
Yeah, my homie had like a little mini ramp. But there was some, we had a couple, there was a guy on the woods in like Maine that had like a half pipe.
Yeah, that's sick.
Like I mean, like a 5 foot.
I lived in like the suburbs where I was just like,
impossible.
You know, it's like what, you know, just like people that are just doing like what they're told. You know what I'm saying?
No one's cul-de-sac type of vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
You know, so like, yeah, that really wasn't an option then. I mean, still at that point, it was like there was like skateboarding's not a crime. You know, people were still like people were banned, and then once it became like okay, like Tony Hawk 2 came out, and then like X Games, that was it. Now it's like now it's not. It kind of, to me, it's not like it lost its luster, but I loved it because it was like
rebellious.
Rebellious.
You're you're just skating around parking lots. And
I mean, we were
the crew.
I mean, my parents would like. I was the kid who was like go outside and play. You know what I mean? And so I had a bicycle and I had my skateboard, and the bicycle would get me to all the skate spots that were far away. So we would just romp around. You know what I mean? And just go. Ride to the next spot. I spent most of my childhood outside skateboarding.
Totally.
You know?
Same. That was amazing. And then I fucked up my ankles too many times.
That was
I rolled my ankles. Like I played sports. I like broke my my feet 6 times.
Holy shit.
Like 3 each time.
You're lucky you fucking walk, dude.
I know.
And you walk pretty fast. I mean, I'm still trying to catch up with this knee out here. You know
yeah. This at New York. That's at New York.
I know, dude. You got to.
No. So I wanted to talk about one thing. It popped up in my mind last night. So you do a bunch of traveling.
Correct.
You where have you been?
Well, I mean,
you've been to a bunch of places.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like how I could start it is basically like my family.
And what I'm getting to eventually, there's a story about Japan.
Okay, yeah.
Which I want to get to. But
okay,
I wanted to get into some travel stories because obviously me and you both do a bit of traveling.
Yeah, so like my mom became married when I was in 10th grade to a pilot. Like, I actually don't know my real father.
Okay.
So I was raised by my grandparents in like the middle of Oklahoma on like a farm. Okay, and so we grew wheat and cotton, and we had some cattle, and that was about 15 miles out. And then like we lived on the outskirts of a small town, but on like the actual like city or town like limits. And then within that house we had like a pecan grove in the back, and then we had two separate like little farming areas on the left and right side of like our house that we grew different root vegetables. And then once my mom got done, my mom and my real dad were really young, right? My mom was 21, my dad was 19, so they were like kids having kids, you know. So
yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 42. I'm gonna be 42, and I don't have a kid, I mean, the closest thing I have is a couple plants. You know what I mean?
Same. I got a couple. I'm a plant dad.
So
I got a goddaughter.
So I didn't really do much traveling then up until then. But like once my mom married my stepfather, and he's a pilot for American Airlines, or was. He actually retired literally like March, or like I think he had his last flight like February 18th of last year.
Whoa.
So he literally he was able to do his whole bid, like get his full retirement. Right after then they had to like lay off like a ton of people, and gave all these people like options to like different options. You know, I mean, I can't tell you what the actual
numbers and whatever
like numbers are,
contract,
but a lot of people had to go, you know.
Totally,
so I feel really fortunate for him that he was able to live his whole, he got one job, committed to the company,
he's a lifer.
and he's a lifer, and he's got the pensions, he's got all that shit.
Did it all right.
Yeah, so my mom met him, and I don't really know the full story, but my mom moved to Danbury, Connecticut.
Okay.
To like after she got done nursing school, right? And so I lived with my grandparents in 4th grade, totally in that town alone, without my mom for that 1 year, while my mom was getting her basically she was starting her first year as like an ER nurse, and she was able to get a job in New Haven that year. And then we moved, and then apparently obviously she met my dad, and they decided that they were going to get married, and I came up during 4th grade. Yeah, I came up during 4th grade. That 3rd grade year was the year that I was living with like my grandparents alone. And yeah, I mean, from there, like I remember my dad obviously likes to like travel. I mean, he has a job that he travels the world. He's a pilot, you know. Tight. This is cool. It's definitely cool. Into. It's something he's passionate about, and that traveling obviously makes you cultural. It makes you like, because what you realize is that nowhere is the same, right? Like every place you go has different morals and different standards of living, and like what they accept, what they don't accept, and exactly. So,
I think that's super beneficial. It's what I always tell people about traveling. At least go to one other place.
At least go to one other. I mean, you should probably go to more.
Once you understand that people do things differently in other places, and that it works for them in some capacity, you can see how it works. Then you can understand like my way isn't the only way that can be done. This is just the way that I do things in my culture. But you go to other places where it's like totally different. Yeah. There's some places that are similar. It's like adjacent. Yeah. But then there's some that are just like super far out.
Yeah, so like, I agree with that fully, and my dad took me on a first trip. I actually flew with him to Canada. I actually went on a trip with him where his trip was from New York City to Toronto, New York City, New York City to Toronto.
That sounds amazing.
And like, I mean, and like in one day, like, so I was like the little kid in first class, and like the whole staff were just like so nice to me,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah.
And then,
that's awesome,
and then we went up to the space like a needle there. There's like I don't know if it's a Space Needle, but there's some like
tower
thing. Yeah. And that was like, you know, that was my first experience like out of the country, you know. And I'm in 4th grade, and then there's actually, it's funny, there's literally pictures of me laying down in the overhead bins, like I'm in there as like a little kid with like some like knockoff Coogee fucking sweater, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah. And so then you know, so then I only lived there for 1 year. And
did you get you had a passport? Like,
I don't even know if I did.
I don't think you need one.
No, I don't think back then you did, because I actually remember being taught in school that America had 2 of the longest, freest borders in the world, and that was Mexico and Canada, where you were able to travel to those places without passports before.
Totally.
And that was, I think that's all pre 9/11.
Totally.
I think things changed.
You can. I've gone. Maybe I mean, I got Canada border stories for days that I can tell you.
Oh yeah, because you're
I'm right on the border. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some crazy stories, but you can go with like a birth certificate and like a birth certificate and ID.
Yeah, I mean,
they technically they can't not let you in with that, but they might question you. Take you out the car and da da da.
Yeah, so you know, so after that like year there, my dad's job moved. The like American Airlines, they moved this hub down to North Carolina. So we moved down there. So I went from farm town to, you know, the Northeast, where I met my first like Jewish friends, my first Italian friends. There's no Jewish people and Italians in Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? There's no bagels there and nothing, you know?
It's just white.
It's just white. Well, it's white and Mexican and Native American. Yeah, that was pretty much, I would probably be the pretty much like sum it up.
See, ours is like Canadians, Americans, white American, like Scottish, Irish, German.
And I think Maine's a pretty white place.
Totally. And then Native Americans. It's like a bunch of Native American reservations there, Native American land, and like we're right on, obviously on the border.
Yeah. So then we moved to North Carolina, and now I live in. So now this is like, you know, the 3rd place that I've lived by the time I'm in 5th grade, right? Or different state, you know, so
totally different vibes.
I mean, they're like totally different culture, and it was kind of cool to be able to go somewhere and like, you know, especially as a kid, where you like things can follow you, you know, just to be the new guy with nothing in his past. There's like, it's like a fresh slate,
yeah,
you know, which was like, there's ups and downs to that. I mean, between 5th and 8th grade, like my relationship with my family, pretty much from 5th grade on, my relationship with my family was pretty hard, you know. I mean, like you know, my parents were like having their kids together. I'm 10 and 12 years older than my little brothers, and they're with my stepdad. And we're actually tighter now since they're I'm tighter with like my little brothers now, because I moved out when I was 18. And they were only 8 and 12 years old, or 8 and 10 years old when I left home, you know. So over time we've gotten like closer.
Nice.
But then basically we like lived down there for 4 years. Like my family did like some like traveling to Florida. I remember we went to Florida, Virginia, and like Myrtle Beach down there, and then American Airlines decided to shut down this major hub down there, because I don't think it was financially working. So, you know, my dad's from Long Island here, and is definitely from like the like Northeast, you know. So he wanted to like come back up, and so we moved to like right outside of Philadelphia, and that's actually where my parents still are now, and I lived there from pretty much 9th grade till 12th grade, And then I was at that point, it was like what I was saying is from like the skateboarding, and I had this like almost like I thought this was gonna be my life, right?
Yeah,
And then like that,
I
I was gonna be skating, and then like winter hit, you know, and it was like I was like a rude awakening. Like my shit was over, and that, obviously I'm 16, or I'm 16 at this point, or 15. And I'm like, all right, well, this is where I start smoking weed. I start fucking finding girls, you know? And I'm like, my interest changed, and I literally just never picked back up a skateboard. Wow. Like, that was it. It was so strange, but I think because it was such a long stint, it was like a long winter, dude. I just remember it was like days of sleet and ice.
No possible way.
It was like this, like, it was terrible. It was terrible. So then basically, you know, I got into traveling even more. Now at this point, I've lived in 4 states, you know.
So you're used to traveling. You bounce around. I am similar.
Yeah, so
I think that helps when you're able to just say, I'm going to start over here. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
New people.
So then 10th grade happened, and we moved in. Now we're going into like high school, right? And I actually hooked up with this one girl that like I met in like the summertime that I saw in high school after that, because it's basically 3 different junior highs merged into one high school.
Word.
And my high school was huge. Like it was like my class was 900 people. Okay. And we had 3 classes in there. So there's 2,700 kids in my school. Right.
Fuck. My school was 400.
Like there was total?
Yeah. Like my class size was 100.
Yeah. No, my school was like, I mean, honestly.
But if I went to a private school, like a bit away from my home, if I would have went to the school in my hometown, that school had like 40 kids in the whole high school.
Oh shit!
They had graduating classes of like 5. Like,
dude, that's
I've seen that. Like,
that's like I'm just like the total opposite.
I went to grade school there, and like our class. And maybe like when we started was like 13 or 14 kids in the whatever grade 6th grade. Yeah. And then maybe by the end, by graduation, which I wasn't at. I'm one of those people who wasn't there, but it was like 10 people, and that was one of the bigger classes that they had.
10 people
that they had.
I mean, you didn't, and that's what I was talking about. Like, you know, being younger, being like, oh my God, imagine you make some mistakes, and like the 10 people around you are gonna remember forever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they know all your dirt.
They know all your dirt. You know, so you know, it was definitely nice to be able to like. I realized. I think that's why I'm like. I don't know. I love being like on the road. I like being on my way somewhere more than the destination sometimes.
Same.
You know?
I think we were talking about this last night, like being on a plane, being on a bus.
Well, I don't always like the plane, but yeah, I just feel like I'm going somewhere, or like running or running your life in a sense of like having these things to look forward to, right?
Totally.
So like, okay, like I am here now and I have this trip planned, and it's like an intense, like long trip. It's longer than your 2 weeks off a year, right? So I know that I want to be prepared for this. So I'm willing to fucking work my fucking ass off to like be able to be maybe a little uncomfortable because I'm working extra hours, or like,
and to be uncomfortable on the plane, on the bus, whatever. I'm willing. The goal is
to get there.
To get there,
right? You know, so it's like
whatever it takes. Like once you get over the hurdle, that's why I think a lot of people don't travel. They're like, first of all, I talk to a lot of people, and you know, I'm like, do you travel? No, like you don't even have a passport. Like in the United States, you can pretty much go everywhere in the world. All you need is this document that costs like $140, and then you pick up, you just go.
Well, you know, I think like one of the biggest issues is that basically, you know, the United States is just so vast. It's so big, right? We've got every landscape possible, right? You can go, you know, from the mountains to New York City to like desert. Alaska, Hawaii, a desert, plateaus, like Death Valley, swamp. I mean, like whatever, right? So, you know, I think that most people don't even get to see that, you know, just because of how our lifestyles are in the United States, of just like they work people to death. I mean, like that's the thing. I mean, you realize once you start traveling too, is that most cultures, a lot of people get like 2 to 4 months off a year.
Totally.
That are like, and then those people, when they go back to work, they're
ready
stoked
to work.
to be back at work,
Totally.
and will do a way better job and like actually
Yeah.
perform.
It
you
feels
know
like
what I mean?
around here in the States, it's like you're just constantly working 24/7.
Yeah,
You
they're
get 2 weeks off a year.
I mean, they really try and like squeeze you for everything.
Totally.
You know.
But I think the what I was saying is like the logistics of going somewhere are a bit intense for people that, you know, don't do it. Like, oh, I'm gonna go to this place, have to book a, you know,
and not speak the language,
yeah.
and like you have to do math all the time, and you always have to like get ready to like get the wrong order, right? Like
Totally.
food, like you're always like, damn, I wanted that cold, or like I didn't know this was hot, or like
yeah,
or whatever. Like,
yeah, be prepared for
be like, and you have to be flexible, right?
Totally.
I mean, if not, you're just always causing a scene, and it's just better to might try something new.
Yeah, exactly. It's
You
just
know?
like if they say something, just say yeah, and then just take it.
Yeah.
You know?
Take it like a champ.
Did you say this? Yeah, I said that. That's perfect. You know?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did that. I got this like big, when I was in Mexico, I ordered like a shrimp. I thought it was like a shrimp cocktail, but it was just like a chalice of like clams. Like it was like
a seafood food, like cold. Yeah, cold. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it's served right, I mean, it wasn't ceviche, right? It was like
it was honestly good,
Uh-huh.
but it was a lot. It was like there's no way I can eat.
Intimidating.
It was just like a big fucking chalice of like soup that's like crab, scallops, shrimp. It was good, like a few spoonfuls, hearty spoonfuls.
Yeah.
But yeah, shit like that. When I was, remind me of another time when I was in Venice. We were talking about Venice last night. I went to this restaurant and I ordered like the seafood sampler.
Okay.
And we're on this, we're at like a restaurant that's like on the river, on a little.
Yeah, on one of the canals.
One of the canals, like the main one, the big one.
Yeah.
And we're looking over, we can like see the fish. And
which I gotta say, they have the worst food in Venice. I mean, if you've never been, like, honestly, you're just paying for a lot for like not much, or like it's just not quality.
Exactly. So we got the seafood sample, and I thought it was gonna be like fried fish or whatever. They literally, it's just like cold on. It's fish is on ice, and it's just raw. There's like little shrimp. It was just not good. There was like a whole octopus that was like divided,
and they're like, oh, it's actually double than what.
Yeah, it's like a delicacy. I'm like, this. They like drizzled like some olive oil over it, and that's it. But other than that, it was like fish that had just recently been on ice. And there was like an octopus head. There was like the small parts of his legs were in one pile. The thicker parts of his like thigh parts were in another section, and then it was just like the body. So you just like cut, and there's like ink you cut into it, and there's just like ink.
And you got ink in your face and your mouth. Oh,
and there's like there's like an octopus's brain just chilling there. I'm like, this was wrong. This is not what I expected.
Yeah. I mean, with traveling, like you've got to expect that.
Yeah, totally.
And then, so I guess going back to like to kind of keep on going with the trajectory of kind of my life that leads into like traveling is I grew up traveling, right? And then basically like once 10th grade happened for me, I told you I hooked up with this girl, right? She ends up going to this Delight concert downtown Philly, and back then the Delight, the group, her name was Lady Kier, and she's also a jungle DJ, right, for like the rave scene, which I knew nothing about, right? And yeah, you know, she came back with some of her friends from that show and got all these flyers for these raves that were going on up and down the East Coast. Whoa. Right? And she was like, yo, there's a rave in like my like hometown, like where we lived at. And she's like, do you want to go? I was like, I guess I'll ask my mom. I mean, like, I was, you know what I mean? I don't know what, even know what this thing.
Mom, can I go to a rave?
And she's like, well, I'm going to call. And this is the best, because this is literally like the beginning of really the first day my parents hated me until I was like 23. And it's not the best. I'm sorry, mom and dad, but you know, like, you know, it was like a matter of like my independence, right?
Totally, yeah.
Because that was like a scene that was like super free. So literally, like, I'm going to say maybe like a month or two before that, I ate my first hit of LSD before that, right?
How old were you?
I was 16.
Okay.
Right.
Damn,
And then
you really gave up skateboarding. You just
I went
searching.
and yeah, I mean, I've already traveled so much, you know. I mean, I realized of like how cultured that like I was from the rest of my peers,
Totally.
you know, and I just really kind of didn't fit in because I just they just couldn't relate to the things that I've already culturally.
Like, I'm past that. That's not even.
So
important.
so what I found my tribe, right, and that was the fucking rave scene. So
you were
right,
doing
it was
like
so hear me out. So then basically, my mom calls this place. Now this place is called Sportsland, right? And what it was this. It was this place that was like a roller skating rink. They had arcade. It was for like, you know, kids that are over 15.
Just need somewhere to hang out.
Need somewhere to hang out, you know.
Like a club, like 18 and under club.
Yeah, kind of. There wasn't even like a club. It was more like roller skating rink style, like classic 90s shit, right?
And spot.
Yeah, and so I'm sure, I don't know if this company actually knew what they were actually letting these people do, throw this fucking rave there, because it's in the middle of the suburbs, and dude, it ended up being a fucking mega rave, dude. There was like 4,000 people from around the fucking East Coast that drove in for this thing.
Oh shit.
Oh
Some
my
cars everywhere.
Oh, I mean, okay, so I mean, check it out. So it's like this. So my mom calls Sportsland, right? And you know who's running like the phones are like 18-year-old kids, you know what I mean? Just there's kids running this fucking place. So my mom calls and is like, yeah, there's like a rave going on. I'm like, my son's trying to go, blah blah blah. And then whoever was on that other line, I was in the room and I'm like listening to this conversation. I'm like, I wonder what this guy's gonna fucking say, you know? And he was like, oh, and basically he explained to my mom that it was like a church lock-in. That like it was like, oh, it's safe, you know, you just, you know, drop kid off. It's like a church lock-in, blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, okay, fine. Dropped me and these bunch of girls off. And then I ended up like, I ate like 3 hits of acid in line. Right. And it was, I was like, I was ready to go, dude.
Ready to party.
Yeah. So like the line was like 4 people wide, and it took almost 3 hours to get in because there were so many people. And in that line, obviously I'm starting to trip balls, right? And it's raining out, and there's like all these people from all walks of life. And you're talking about like before transgender, like, you know, like I'm seeing every walk of life, like, you know, and
it's
just being free. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just crazy. People from around the world are coming to this thing to be free and be whoever,
just have a good time,
whoever the fuck they want to be, right? And this is before the internet and social media and people having phones or even having
like
fucking.
In the 90s?
This is 1995.
1995.
Yeah. So you know, it's starting to like rain out. I'm getting wet. There's fucking girls throwing sparkles everywhere. There's like, it looks like oil slick like on people's cars, and I can like hear the fucking music. And all I hear is the bass like for a while, and then it gets louder and louder and louder, and then like finally we're like coming in, and then it's just like a fucking like laser show, fucking smoke machines, and people openly doing drugs, and like, you know, people from around the fucking world. Well, I wouldn't say around the world. I mean, it's literally like up and down the like East Coast, and that's where you got all these flyers for the next underground party. That's right?
Amazing.
And I like went there, and I was blown away of how like the freedom I don't want to feel like a fucking criminal because I want to fucking expand my mind or fucking experiment with
There's
something.
No one judging me here.
Yeah, you know, it was and that was a really interesting place, you know. And so that was when I realized I'm like, I found like my crew or what I want to do, you know. And so
I want to hang out with those guys.
And so then my parents really started hating me because I was sneaking out literally in the middle of the night, getting on a train to go to Philly. Whoa. I was going to these parties like up all night. I mean, I saw Daft Punk, one of their first shows in the States in 97.
Wow.
At this club called Shampoo. And I mean, I saw like multiple like I mean, there was a place called 611 Records downtown, and that's where basically like all of the like DJs would go to get their vinyl, and to that's where all the mixtapes were and flyers, and they also organized bus trips there. So they would organize bus trips to go to a rave in New York City or Baltimore,
Nice.
DC.
So you fill a bunch of people into a bus.
Yeah. So this I think this crew called Local 13 is what they were called, and they would rent these Greyhound buses and then like pile kids in there and fucking we'd go to New York City, and like I went.
Amazing.
Yeah. So like, dude, you get a ride in, and then the bus pulls up. I went to this one called Liberty, and it was at the Roseland Ballroom here, and yeah, like the bus pulled up, they let us off. We were like VIP. They let the whole Philly like bus come in, and then then after you're fucking like, they're like, just be back for the bus at like fucking 7 a.m. Or 6 a.m. And then pile back in and fucking take the bus home. And
Totally.
yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, and I ended up traveling like up and down the like East Coast. That was really like me and my girlfriend were getting in cars. We're going to this place called.
So you're super comfortable with just being in
traveling
traveling somewhere.
But I just love meeting people and like just traveling, being in a new environment. I mean, life can be so like mundane sometimes,
Totally.
And so that was really like me being like, okay, I'm becoming an adult and traveling. What brought me to Baltimore the first time, or like DC, was like going to these illegal clubs. I mean, like, it was different back then. I mean, like, they weren't even serving alcohol at these places, but they were like,
you could tell there were some people.
It was like open drug market for sure.
I went into some after hours here in New York. New York was like my sort of like, coming from Maine.
It's definitely the like closest, right? Or like.
What?
I guess Boston.
But New York is like totally different.
It's different.
It's just like all the culture, everything you could possibly imagine, and like it all happens here, So it's like there's a whole scene just for like raves and like after hours. So there's like legit like.
I mean, the place is just so big and it has like so many nooks and crannies.
Exactly,
I mean,
and
like,
so many people that are up to shit. So I remember
up to shit, up to no good or some good.
Whatever,
they're up to something.
Yeah. So like we would go to like these after hours, and you'd walk in, and there'd be just like tables of people like selling drugs, merch.
Yeah.
Like
the whole nine.
Yeah. Whatever you want. It's just like right past the security guard.
Yeah.
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 It's amazing.
Yeah.
But so you were saying.
So those raves. Yeah. So then I basically barely graduated high school.
Same.
Mean, like I was like,
Same,
they
bro.
we kind of weren't sure if I was going to graduate and finish until like the last couple weeks.
Same.
Right. I was like on that verge. And then I actually ended up being, I was at this point, I'll be honest with you, I was pretty strung out. I was like eating pharmaceutical pills at a really young age. And it's because it was very it was very accessible, like back then in Philadelphia, which it still has a major problem now.
Yeah.
Right. But, I never drank. I only did drugs because it was way more like just to the point, right? Like all the
bullshit drinking.
Yeah.
I
mean, I didn't it tastes terrible. Like I had to pee all the time, and
I just want the effect.
Yeah, exactly. So then basically like the summer after I like graduated high school, my parents like gave me an ultimatum. They're like, you either go to school or get the fuck out, right? Like that was it. So the one thing that I was somewhat decent at was I did really well in like my electronics class, and I took like a normal one in 10th grade and excelled in it, or in like 11th grade, and then in 12th grade I got put in like an AP class for that.
For electronics.
Yeah. And
like circuit, like
so like doing circuits, like all of like
circuit boards.
Yeah, I think it was more basic back then.
Totally.
Than obviously
just soldering, connection.
Soldering, yeah, and just understanding how it works, capacitors, transistors,
Totally.
and like
yeah,
whatever. Like
I'm just getting into that. That was a part of my school, But my school was like very intense. So every week there would be like a
well, I mean,
a
well,
lesson.
I think like one thing that like happened to me was when I was like, you'd have these like circuit boards, right? That were like basically these open things, and you'd have your like your in gate and your non gate, and these different black. Almost, I don't know if they're I can't even remember.
Transformers?
No. There's
like
something. There's like
fuse,
no. It's like a chip, and they do certain things. Like a positive will create a negative reaction, or like they like whenever you put it'd be like a certain type of. I honestly, I can't recall. It's been a long ass.
But that's
time.
what you were doing.
Yeah, and so then like then my parents were like, oh, I was like, you got to do like something. So I was basically talked into going to DeVry Institute of Technology, and there was one in New Jersey, right? But I lived in like Pennsylvania side, right? So it was still considered out of state, right? And where it was in New Brunswick, dude. I was like, I already was like, no Philly or no a city. I'm like, I'm not living in the middle of nowhere. I'm just gonna get in trouble. You can't even walk anywhere.
Yeah, without everyone looking out their window.
Yeah, well, there's nowhere to walk, bro. There's not even like a sidewalk. It's just like out. There's cars out.
Cars only.
Yeah, you only like the only way to get somewhere is with like a car, right? And so, I actually one of my buddies decided to actually like come with me too. And do it and to like go to school, and he was 1 year older than like me. I would say most of my friends in the high school were like 1 year past me, right? And so I barely passed 12th grade because I was hanging out with all my friends that already graduated and just being a fucking degenerate. You know what I mean? Yeah. So then around. I mean, I was definitely, I just didn't give a fuck. You know? I just did not care. Like you know, I didn't care about school ever, right? And then basically my parents were like, all right, well, you need to go to school. So DeVry in New Jersey, like I said, was out of state. I don't want to go there. And they had other ones. So they had ones. I was like, all right, I'm going to go somewhere crazy. You know what I mean? Because that's just
in Cancun.
Yeah. That's like, yeah, right. No. So there was one in Calgary, Canada.
Cool.
And then they had like 7 institutes, and I'm not even sure if this place is more of a scam, like a scam school or not. Honestly, like I have no idea, but I didn't make it through. But basically, there was
one. Did it seem like a scam?
I mean, kind of, but I have no idea.
I
wasn't even checking in, dude. Like, so I like.
It's a keep your parents happy school.
Yeah. I mean, like pretty much, and it was only for a couple weeks because basically, you know, the other place that I was looking at was Phoenix, Arizona, right? So I literally flipped a coin between Phoenix, Arizona and Calgary, Canada to fucking move to. Flipped a coin, Phoenix it was.
Convenient.
I mean, like 2,000 miles away from home, you know what I mean? Like, so me and my buddy packed up my fucking Nissan Sentra with all the fucking CDs we had, as much weed and pills as I could fucking bring, and like, you know, head off to fucking adulthood.
So you were going from New Jersey, or you're going from Philly
to Arizona. So it was like my first big road trip, you know.
And you're just like going out into
to
the world.
live. I'm going out to be an adult, dude. You know what I mean?
Like a new city.
To a new city, like I've never even been to. Right. You know?
Yeah, it's exciting.
It was. I mean, we it took us 3 days. We drove the southern route, and we went from Philadelphia down into Tennessee, and then cut over from there. I actually saw my like grandmother in like my hometown in Oklahoma on like the way out, and we stopped there a little bit. And then we made it to New Mexico, and we stayed like overnight there. And then we kept on driving, and you know, a lot of I would say like the second day, a lot of the driving was at night, so I didn't really get to see like a whole lot of like the like middle part. But once we got to Arizona, I think we stopped at Flagstaff. I had an actual friend there, but you know, that part of the world is really interesting, and you know. Visually, you know, it's like the desert, the Sedona, all you know, so
Red Rocks and all that, or like someone was recently telling me to go to Utah, like circle arches or the arches.
Yeah. I mean, that whole like southwestern part is beautiful.
Yeah.
I
I
haven't.
need to check it out. I need to check that out.
I would like to go at this age, because when I went out there then I was 18
You
and
didn't
I
care
just didn't really care. I
You didn't know what it
I
was.
did some I went to some like hippie rave in fucking Sedona and did some ecstasy up there, but
You're just trying to party.
yeah, I'm just trying to party.
You're like,
know?
this is cool, but
Yeah, exactly. So, so we like pull up. We like we moved into this condo that was on 13th and Northern. It's where I don't even know what part of Phoenix that is at this point. And I'm like, damn, this place got a fucking pool. I'm like, dude, this shit is fucking balling. Then we like find out we're in the hood.
Yeah.
Like it's like, it's just their style of hood, It was like
you need a pool. The pool
yeah,
is
you have necessity. Yeah, like literally it's like
everyone's got a pool.
yeah, so you know what? I had a very short stint there because, I started college I think in September. I was already dropped out, I think, by November. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So
You were like, this ain't it.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, so I ended up transferring my Circuit City job to like
Rest in peace, Circuit City.
yeah, RIP. So yeah, like I was interested in doing car stereos and just booming systems. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what
That's where your head was at.
Yeah, that was the electronics part of my brain working, and then like I like music, and then I liked working with my hands,
Building
right?
something,
Yeah, and
something
like
in.
making custom
Splicing
stuff,
cables and all that shit.
yeah, I mean, and just doing like the more mods. Like I wanted to do that. I wanted to be able to like mod out and like do the fiberglass and do and like make custom stuff for cars, right? And basically I kind of got back then, especially I kind of got talked into the more money side of like you could either be a technician, electronic tech, or you be like an electronic engineer, right? And I got skewed to the engineer side, but it was the math that I just was too much for me. I didn't fucking care.
Yeah.
And then I realized if my would have been probably skewed toward the technician side, which is more being like hands-on, or
knowing
like
the gear and shit.
like knowing the gear and setting up stuff, or kind of like what you're saying, you go set up like this whole audio type things or whatever, like whatever that field may be. It's just way more hands-on. It's not as much like
concept and
yeah, exactly. So it just didn't like I work out for me there, and I obviously was in the rave scene there too, so I was looking for it. So I ended up like basically I found this fucking shady fucking dude that was throwing raves there, because it was like even a smaller scene. I mean, like Phoenix was like an old, like so young scene. Even the music sounded older there, like the techno music itself was behind a little
East
bit.
Coast.
Yeah, so
that's how it goes.
Yeah, so I used to go to this place called the fucking Ice House, which is this I don't even know where the fuck it is now, because like I literally, once I left Arizona, I never went back, because it was a crazy time for me. I mean, like shit, like I was just running real loose. I was like, I was definitely partying hard. I ended up like not having a job, and I ended up like working for this guy as like the official door whore, which is like I worked the front of this illegal club with another girl, and like we were the face of like letting people in and like just being like socialites, right? and like basically this like club wasn't even a real club. It was licensed as an actual coffee shop.
Whoa.
And so but what we sold Starbucks Frappuccinos that just came out. Like those were brand new.
Like the glass?
Yeah, like we bought them at 7-Eleven, and then that's what we would sell. That was our, like, we were basically playing by the rules as it being a like coffee shop, but our hours were like fucking all night long. You know what I'm saying?
5 a.m.
Yeah.
Till 7 a.m.
Yeah, whenever, dude, you know? And so, out there, I was definitely partying really hard. was going through some crazy relationship, just being young and like hooking up with kind of multiple people for the first time, and like experimenting that, realizing that might not be a life I want. And like, whatever, like I was surrounded by a lot of negative stuff too, you know, and so then I realized that, you know, okay, let's put it this way. At one point with this guy that was throwing these raves, we like, all right, he's like, I'll show you another way to make some money, right? So this is ridiculous. Okay, so check it out. So we used to go. So in Phoenix, right? They like have like some like I think the most concentrated amount of golf courses in one area, like within the United States. So
per capita, most golf courses.
Yeah. So hear me out. So he had this fucking crazy illegal hustle where we would go sneak in. He had these 2 bicycle racks, right? That were like you put on the back of your bicycle, like a banana seat. There'd be like the long, thin ones, like wire.
Yep.
So he welded 2 of them, or like had them 2 like long ways, so they were long and thin, and on like a rope, right? And we would sneak into like golf courses, and we would go to, he knew what holes were the ones that people teed off at by those ponds, and we would fucking throw the fucking thing in there and dredge the fucking pond for golf balls, right? So then we'd fucking take these I'd pull up like 20, 30 golf balls at a time, or none. I mean, there'd be like leeches on sometimes these things. It was fucking nasty work, bro. And then like there's only one guy in a fucking cart at night that are managing these golf courses. So you'd see they have a path that they go on, you know. So they would do like a whole like a run. Like, so you got about 30 minutes to come back around, you know. So we'd fucking dredge that shit, have trash at night.
Headgear, headlights?
No, you got to do it blind, or else they see you. You know what I'm saying?
Wild.
So then we got fucking trash bags of fucking balls, right? And so then the next day we would go to fucking, we would go to a laundromat, and we put a pair of jeans and a shoe in there and a bunch of bleach, and we bleach all the fucking balls, and then we'd go to the fucking go to a flea market to a guy that bought balls, you know, because he knew where they were coming from, and it was just like a shady gig, like easy money. Or we would go set up at these fucking ghetto golf courses ourselves at like one of the holes and just be slinging fucking balls.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd be selling golf balls on the golf course.
On the golf course.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was like, I realized then I was like, I'm at a low point. You know what I mean? Like this is
not what I want to be doing. I never saw my life panning out to this.
Literally. You know, I'm 18. You know what I mean? I'm not, or I'm like, and at that point, like when I dropped out of high school, my parents, they were in the middle of a divorce for like a little bit. My stepdad and my mom, they were going through their shit. They have 2 other kids that they're like wrapped up in, and you know me, I'm 2,000 miles away. I mean, this is like, no one was in touch back then. Like no one had cell phones. Yeah. You know, like if you didn't have a phone at your house, you'd have to like, you know, just call at some point, or like people couldn't reach you, you know? There was no social media. Or like there's no internet. There's no Facebook.
Phone booth.
Yeah, literally, you know? And so, you know, I was definitely more distant, like with like my family then. And,
so maybe that you became a little bit more comfortable with that, probably.
I mean, yeah, at some point for sure, you know.
You flew the coop. You flew the roost.
Yeah, I mean, I was learning a lot, but basically, my parents were like, once you're done, if you're not going to school, and we're not going to support you, you're your own man now. Like you need to like
figure it out.
Well, this is what I figured out. I've succumbed to selling used golf balls on the side of the fucking golf course, of course. Yeah, pretty much. You know, so then I was like, all right, I got to have a fucking life change, you know? And so I like ended up leaving the apartment that I was in, and I really like stopped going to raves. Like I was just like, holy shit, this is just going to get me wrapped up. And I was also getting to that age where like, I feel like it's a little bit different now how raves have changed to this EDM type thing, and it's become more adults, and it's like places where you can drink, and like especially Las Vegas, it's become something different than what it was, where raves were for people under 21. You know what I'm saying? Mainly, I would say, like, you know, like back then it was a place for
young people
to go between that age of 16 and 21.
You couldn't go to bars. And
you couldn't go to bars and shit, and it was like figuring out life, right? So, you know, so I like stopped going. I started working at this place called Macayo's, which is this Mexican restaurant in Tempe, Arizona. And which was like basically like it's like a smaller town outside of Phoenix itself. I think it even might be in county like limits, but it's like, you know, it's separate, you know. And I worked there, and I basically saved up enough money to move to Colorado. Now I had this idea that I was going to move there, and I was going to teach people. I was like, I like snowboarding. I did that with like skateboarding a lot.
You're trying to find the easiest possible job.
Well, I mean, I just wanted I wanted to do what I love.
Totally.
That's what it comes down to, right? Like I wasn't from the very beginning of my, like, because of all this and being traveling so much and having to start over or whatever, I just like, I want to, you either work for your dream or you're working for someone else's dream, right? I mean, like, so, you know, so I was just trying to follow any passion that I like had. And I was like, all right, well, I'd like to snowboard all the time. If I could go live on one of these resorts and teach people, I'm down. So I actually had a friend that lived in Boulder, Colorado, that I was going to go visit first. So I basically went and like, and I had this crazy like experience, like actually leaving Arizona. So I packed up all my shit. Okay. So like I said, I did like I call it almost like a bid down there, you know? So I was there.
You did a bid in Phoenix.
Yeah. You know, so I thought I was going to meet the devil down there, you know, and I just really related it to a lot of that. It's like one of the hottest places in the world. You know, there's like, man shouldn't really live there. You know, like the fucking,
you're out of your element. You're on Mars almost.
Yeah, I mean, and like they don't have any natural resource, like not any natural resource. They don't have like natural water there.
Yeah,
like everything is like just
imported.
Like, well, it's filtered, like all this like irrigated, and like it's the same water being drank over and over and over and filtered back. Like they don't have a natural like occurring aquifer or anything there. At least I think. Like I'm pretty sure. So whatever. So like, you know.
So you're moving.
So like I basically lived there from September until I got to June, and once June hit, too fucking hot. And I was like in the middle of already in the headset of like, I'm gonna fucking be out.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So it's
like 120, right?
Dude, I mean, it'll like break shit in your car. I mean, like there's no reason. It's unbearable. There's no reason for it, right?
Yikes.
And so it's funny. So this will I'm going to talk about a little bit of part of a story that will loop back around. Okay.
Cool.
And so I was at literally like I went to like one more rave there that was like basically like I knew a bunch of my friends were going to be there. I was saying goodbye. I'm going to move. Yeah. While I'm there, I meet this street kid, and his name's River. Okay. And this street kid is on his way to Boulder, Colorado as well. Right. And he's like, yo, I pretty much live on what the fuck is this street called? Oh my God. He lives on Pearl Street is what it is. And Pearl Street back then, like Boulder, Colorado, back in like the like 90s was one of the first like, you know, openly weed friendly places. Like it wasn't like you were like buying weed at like a store, but it was in their like culture, and people would smoke on the courthouse lawn all day, and like it was just way more of like a free place, right? And so like I said, I had like a friend that like lived there. So I had plans to basically stop there and then basically go up to the mountains to try and get a job. But lo and behold, like how my timing was a little off. I tried to go teach snowboarding in June. Tough. You know what I'm saying? So
hiking
like,
season.
Yeah. So.
And what were you anticipating?
I mean, I don't know. I had to get out of Arizona. It was like,
so you hitched a ride with this street kid?
No. Basically, he was like, yo, you know, once you get up there, look for me like on like the street. Yeah. I was like, cool. You know, that's basically it, right? So then like, you know, rave ends, whatever. Within the next, I don't know, week or so, I pack up my shit, everything that I own in this Nissan like Sentra. one, my like license was up. I didn't have insurance. The car was still registered in Pennsylvania with no registration. Like I was fucked, dude. And so then like, I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna get out of here. I'm 18, you know. I'm in a pinch, dude. You know, so like this drive to where I was going to, in my head, the fucking promised land, right? Like I was going from the deep desert, right, where this drive is actually pretty epic. If you've never done it, I highly like recommend it, and I would probably do it again. And
so it's what, from Phoenix to Boulder?
Yeah, and basically like there's like 2 different routes, and I kind of went the more scenic route, but I almost didn't make it because I got pulled over. Oh yeah, I was fucking flying through the fucking desert.
No registration, no nothing,
all that shit, all that shit. And I was 18 and I had like fucking like $600 to my name. That's it. You know what I mean?
That's what you were living on.
That was my new, like how I was moving across the fucking, across the fucking country, you know? And so I get pulled over a little outside of like Flagstaff. Basically,
for what, speeding?
Yeah, speeding. And so, and then he was like, dude, like,
how you speed?
Dude, how you speed? You got all this shit. He gave me 4 fucking tickets. Listen, I never paid him. I don't know if that should go on here, but those never got paid. But this is before all the states were tied in electronically. So I got lost in the system, which was great, but whatever. I actually couldn't go.
Where were you when you got pulled over?
So
you said you were in Colorado.
No, I was. So Arizona is part of 4 Corners, right? So that's where the only place in the United States where 4 states
have a border,
have like a corner that they all touch or whatever.
You've been there.
Yeah, so that's the route you've got to go. I think basically you can either head east out of Phoenix and then head towards like New Mexico, like Mexico City, and then like head north directly from there. Or
you say New Mexico City?
Yeah.
Is that what it's
called? No. It's
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like getting my Mexicos all. Yeah. I just got back, So
yeah.
But basically like the more beautiful route is you go north from Phoenix and you go through the desert and then you go through Sedona, and which is like where this vortex is, this very spiritual place, and like it really is like an amazing, it's super scenic, right? And then you go from there and you start going back up into the mountains of like Flagstaff, and you can go snowboarding there. Like there, like it goes back up like high.
Super
like
high, yeah.
it goes
it's
back
the Rockies?
up. I'm not sure.
Word.
I'm not sure.
Word.
Right. But I'm assuming a branch of it, but I could be wrong. Right. And then basically like from Flagstaff, you start actually like when you start heading towards 4 Corners from there, because it's basically directly above Phoenix. So you just go north there, and then from Flagstaff, you start heading northeast. And that leads you to four corners there. And I think it's not as major of like, it's not like a major highway. It's more of like a route,
Yeah,
and
like a junction or something.
Yeah, it's just not, it's not an interstate, but it's still an actual highway, right? And so you go through there, and heading towards there, you start actually coming back down the mountains, and you go into the painted desert.
Wow.
And then you start going up into these plateau regions, and then right when you hit four corners is like where like the Rockies, I feel like maybe it is where the Rockies really start, and it starts to turn green, and you just start going up, ascending up, right? And so and then you basically cut through Crested Butte and just kind of just winded literally up these like windy, like you would think you're in like the Swiss Alps, of these little towns that you go through of these winding roads. But before I got to actual Four Corners itself, I got pulled over.
Fuck.
And he's like, dude, you're like, I could take you to jail right now, you know? And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to go to college, is what I told him, you know, because I was still young enough that I could be a student, you know. I'm like, dude, I'm broke. I'm on my way to college, dude. Just fucking help me out, dude. Even though I was like nowhere near going to college, you know, but it was the best excuse I could think of to not go to jail, right?
Totally.
He's like, you can take care of this. You can either go to jail, or you can take care of this through like the mail. And it was like fucking like $3,500.
You're like, I'll
fucking
take it
through the
here,
mail. I mean, yeah, exactly. So, but I felt like it was like, you know, I was down in the desert in the heat, and that was like, I literally had this like the like heaven and hell type thing where I was like almost pulled back in, you know, and I wasn't gonna make it out. You know, like that guy had the choice, you know what I mean? To like either like turn my life into something real shit or like let me go, you know what I mean? And I feel very fortunate that he let me go, and I apologize. I never paid those tickets, but you know, they're probably going to be fine, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So then like, once I get to the border of Colorado, and I'm like, now I don't have the adrenaline rush of getting pulled over with all this shit on, you know, I mean, I obviously got some weed on me, like I'm a kid, and I think my buddy gave me a grow light or something to try and make some money with, because he was from Colorado, and
so you were
like I was just like, oh, I was like a recipe for like going to jail, right?
Totally.
And so
asking for it.
Yeah. So he lets me go, and then like you start ascending into the Rocky Mountains, and it literally turns from red to green. Like it's like, you know, this burnt orange color of like the desert turns into like this lush evergreen mountains, you know.
Wow.
And you just start going up and up and up and down these crazy valleys, and like into these winding rivers and these small little towns that are built along that. And I mean, you just feel like you're on your way to like a heavenly, like a sanctuary, like a heavenly place, you know, like an oasis where people can survive, and there is natural resources and water.
You can just be outside and be okay.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it still gets really cold there, but like, you know,
you were there in June. So.
I was there in June. It was beautiful, you know. So then I get to Boulder. I couch surf at one of my girlfriend's house, right? And we were friends in like high school, and went to some raves together and stuff. And she actually had a sister that like an older sister that lived out there. So she moved out there while I lived in Arizona. And then she was like, you should just come up here if you're like going through all this shit. And I was like, she was my closest, like one of my closest friends distance wise, you know what I'm saying? Like she was the closest person I knew from my past, you know, that like I could get to, right? To like, and reach out to, you know, and
she was willing to help you out.
Yeah, for sure. So then like, all right, I decide, I mean, I couldn't, like, there wasn't really room for me at like her spot for a while, but she did let me couch surf there a lot. Like, I gotta say, like, big ups, like, shout outs for fucking helping a brother out, you know what I mean? Yeah. But basically, I ended up going out to outside of Breckenridge, I forget what the town's name, but it's right off the fucking highway there. I gotta look it up.
Breckenridge?
Yeah.
I've heard of, I had a cousin who, I feel like a lot of people from Vermont moved to Breckenridge.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's like it's definitely a fucking snowboard town. And then, but Breckenridge isn't right on the actual.
It's a little bit off the beaten path.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to like basically leave the like highway. Yeah, I was in a town called Frisco. Yeah. Okay. So, I like went and went up there in like July, and was basically like applying to these places, Breckenridge and also Beaver Creek, to work on like the mountain then. And I was applying at Beaver Creek, and we were gonna run. They basically have like luges, like roller luges. They're not ice ones that like people do in like the summer, and they have people that like there's a lift that people go up.
And they're just on wheels.
And they're on wheels, yeah. It's like a track that like you go down or like whatever. And then they also have I'm pretty sure like people go up for like biking trails too, you know. So they're actually open with like some business in like the summer as well.
Yeah.
And
I'm looking at it over here.
Yeah. So basically, I didn't have a like place to live. So I was living, while I was applying for these places, I was living in my car in a tent on the side of the road up in like Frisco, like within, like right off the fucking highway, like me and like two of my buddies. But we had to take drug tests. And it was a problem because obviously we wanted to smoke weed. It was like, it was a fucking dilemma. So I mean, we were both to work for the like for the mountain resorts. Yeah.
Word. Okay.
Yeah. And so
that was a no-go.
Well, I mean, I think I passed it, but basically, I was drinking a ton of water or whatever you do to fucking like whatever type of fucking like smoke shop remedy you can find to fucking summon the gods of the clean pee. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
So, but basically, like after like, I don't know, a fucking week of living in like a tent or like 10 days, I couldn't wait for the results or like find out if we got the jobs anymore. So I was like,
so it was you and who?
It was two of my high school friends that were really degenerates that happened to be out there too.
Word.
Like, I don't even know. Like we split ways, man. We barely like, I remember being like, okay, I'm out of money pretty much. I had enough gas to roll into Boulder. Like my car wasn't working very well anymore. It was like, I mean, like I was like
living on a prayer,
living on a fucking prayer, And so I moved there to like Boulder, and I ended up staying with like my girlfriend there, and she was like, dude, you got to get a job, blah, blah, blah. Obviously I got a job. So I got a job on Pearl Street, actually, at this place called BJ's Brewing Factory. Now this is in 1998. And this is the very beginning of microbrews, right? Mm-hmm. So microbrewing in America really started like around then. Like basically like the whole art of brewing beer was kind of a lost culture for about 70 years because of Prohibition, and that it was basically like a corporate takeover. They banned it, and then only
Budweiser,
they only allowed it for super rich people to come in to be able to get the permits to make the shit, and they had literally like the beer shit on lock for 70 years. You know what I'm saying? And people didn't even know that there was like other types of beer. So like when I got this job, they're explaining to me that that this is going to be a trend like throughout the whole United States, that every city or every place is going to have their own micro beers and local beers,
which is true.
Yeah. And like I'm like, cool. It was like a job for me. I was a fucking busboy there, and it was awful.
So it was a micro brew. Is like a gastro
yeah,
pub.
Yeah. It was a gastro pub with like food, but dude, they worked me, bro. Like I mean, and especially like I'm like half Mexican, right? And when I like applied, they like ask you what your nationality is, and I'm like, oh, I identify with that, and I applied as that.
Like,
so
perfect.
Yeah, they're like pretty much, yeah, you're in. And so like, oh, you're gonna work your, yeah, exactly. And I felt like I was never ever gonna be able to work my way up, And I was
job.
Yeah, it was a dead end job, and I also felt that I was 19. Right. So I wasn't at that point. You're not allowed to serve liquor, booze. You're not allowed to handle it.
Word.
So I still had like 3 more years
before you could even
to make tips, to make like, I was like, this is fucking
like
awful.
$7 an hour.
Yeah. I mean, and working, bro. So the place still might be there unless the pandemic shut it down. I have no idea. It was there couple years ago on like Pearl Street, but it's like a pizza place, a deep dish pizza, and like a brewery.
Did you learn anything about microbrewing?
I mean, somewhat. I mean, I learned I didn't want to be a busboy. That was the most important thing. Is I realized at that moment that I was not restaurant bound and I was not school bound, and I needed to figure fucking something out, right? So this is where this kind of story comes back to Arizona some too. So basically, like when I moved into this apartment complex originally in Arizona, I met these girls. I forget the one girl's name. The one girl's name was January.
Nice.
Yeah, like and she even said that her mom told her that she was named after like a softcore porn like name. Like straight up, this girl was fucking crazy, dude. But she worked at
not the month.
Like no, not the month. Like it was like for sure not named after that. She was a fucking loose cannon, dude.
No, dude.
But like, but she her friend Melanie. Okay, January and Melanie, right? They both worked at this head shop out there, and I was already into smoking weed and had a couple glass pipes.
So okay.
Before I fucking moved out
so
there.
head shops back in the day, same shit, no weed, but
yeah,
just pipes,
just
papers.
Yeah, and like I mean, it was more like porn store, head shops, dildos, and fucking like
weird novelty.
like whatever, just a novelty store, right?
Yeah.
And so they knew that I was really into like smoking weed. I actually took one of my first like. In Arizona, actually, I guess this part I forgot. Like my first trip to actual Mexico, we went down to Nogales on Thanksgiving.
Right across the border. From
right.
Tucson or something.
Yeah, exactly. We like drove down. It's my first time to go to Mexico ever. I drove my car over, which was a bad idea.
The car with nothing.
Yeah, the car with nothing. But well, it wasn't nothing yet. It was still in really good shape then, you know. And so.
But were you documented? Like
yeah.
I mean, you had like the registration.
Yeah. Everything was still registered at that point,
You're
but it's just not a good idea to bring over a car there because if it gets stolen or anything, like it's just gone, you know. I mean, we were fucking teenagers. I was 18. I mean, basically like we drove across in September, right, to like go to school from Pennsylvania. Thanksgiving, I got this great idea. I'm like, we're going to fucking Mexico, dude.
Yeah.
Let's do it. We
Doesn't
fucking
matter.
drive to Mexico. We stayed at like this hotel and we partied all night. And they just remember like them, like we're like three fucking gringos hanging out at this Mexican dance club, and they're just like, leave the chicas alone. And they're like
really?
Oh yeah, like for sure. Like and it was just like, I don't know. We were just trying to hit on girls.
Yeah,
and
you didn't know.
We had no idea of like what we're doing at all.
Going for it.
And so whatever, we come back across, everything's cool, you know. So then
these chicks.
Well, I'm gonna get back to it because I got to talk a little bit about another like the traveling part.
Nogales.
Well, no, just hear me out. So like basically, so after Thanksgiving, I was like, I'm not gonna go home for like Christmas. And this is where I'm like deciding if I'm going to stay in school or dropping out or whatnot. And like one of the guys that I was in school with wanted to go home, but couldn't afford it. And he lived in Washington State, right? And I was like, I knew that Canada and British Columbia is where the good weed was, and that there were places you could go smoke. So
that's all you needed to hear.
That's all I need to hear. Me and my homie and him, we fucking drove all the way up to fucking Canada.
Yeah.
And fucking, I surprised his family with him in my car for fucking like Christmas.
That's what's up.
He's from Spokane, and it was like right when like 007 came out on like PlayStation. It was like the first person shooter game. I just remember getting so fucking lit up there, and like the weed up there is really good.
Yeah.
And so we bought a
BC bud.
Yeah, the BC bud, you know. And so we bought a bunch of weed from between there, Oregon. I had some friends in Oregon and Washington, and we didn't get anything in Canada. I don't even think we even got into the club. Like I don't think we could find it or something. And we were just like running out of money too. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think I had some money saved, but I was like on a fucking just I'm not responsible blowing my fucking savings.
That was all the money you had for the rest of your life.
Pretty much.
With no idea where the next
where the next dollar's like gonna come from. So then we bring back. I remember I think I bought like 2 ounces worth of weed to like get me through a while in like Arizona, because Arizona had shit swag, like just swag weed, you know.
And you could sell it.
Yeah. So then ended up we like became friends with our neighbors January and Melanie that worked at this head shop that knew I had good weed. So they started fucking swiping some fucking pipes from the fucking store to bring to me, and then we'd fucking hang out and smoke weed together. You know what I mean? Nice. And so then I started collecting them. They kind of helped me start collecting these glass pipes, and I became kind of like I don't know. I got infatuated,
You're a connoisseur.
yeah, exactly. So So then, lo and behold, now we're back in Boulder, Colorado. I just get out of work one day, and my work is on Pearl Street. Guess who I see? I see River, the like street kid. I'm like, you want to smoke some weed? I got a glass pipe, and like we're like smoking, you know. I'm like, damn, dude, like. And I kind of heard that in Boulder at that time that there was people making glass and making pipes there, right? And so I was like, you know, I fucking hate my job. I don't want to go to school. I'm like, I've heard there's a couple people maybe making pipes here, and like, I think I might want to do it. And he's like, you know what, dude? I actually know a spot that I can take you and introduce you to these guys that actually have a shop up in North Boulder that I can introduce you to. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, let's go. He got my car, me, the street kid, River. We fucking hop in. The Nissan Sentra was still riding dirty. You know what I'm saying? Because I just took all the back roads all the time. Oh, you know what I did that was super shady is I got a bicycle rack and I put that over my license plate that like covered the fucking registration.
Smart.
Like, you know, so it just always looked like I was sporty, you know what I'm saying?
I got a crazy story. Oh, so it gave you the look of someone responsible.
Yeah, and covered up the fucking registration.
Dude, I got a hilarious story.
So then this is the first time that I get introduced to a like glass shop, right? So he brings me up there, and I remember like fucking walking in, and I came from like the like rave scene, right? Like I was into electronic music and like hip hop. I was like Philadelphia, like you know that was what was going
Philly
on.
Punk.
Yeah,
You're
you
just
know,
a punk.
no, well not punk rock, but like
an actual punk.
Yeah,
like,
and so I like I come into the studio. I mean, it's just all I see are these torches blazing. These hippies are fucking blowing glass like on these torches, and they're working around basically a like pentagon shape, right? So it's a table shaped like a pentagon, and everyone has their own little triangle, and there's a centralized ventilation, right? And so it was like working where there's one fan that comes up and everyone is facing in, but there's like hoods and maybe I can send you some examples of what something like this would look like for, you know, just to show like visually like see this, right? But I walk inside.
So let me get this straight. It's a table that's shaped like a pentagram. It's circular or it's like star shaped.
It's like it's more like a polygon, you know, like a hexagonal or like a pentagon. Almost. But I think it was 6 stations. I'm not sure if it was five or six.
Okay.
But I mean, they're blaring the Grateful Dead. They're smoking weed. They're listening to whatever they want to do. They're all fucking making pipes.
You're like, yes.
I'm like, they have all the freedom in the world. So then I ended up talking with this dude named Mo, right? And I was basically like, listen, dude, like, I think I really want to do this. And he's like, dude, it's going to be $1,000. First thing, $1,000. And I was going to be able to watch him do it. Right, for like they're like a month or whatever that fucking was, right? And so ended up I ended up calling like my mom the next day, and my parents at that point were actually separated for like a little bit, and this I haven't talked to my family in a little bit, and I'm like, Mom, I figured out what I'm gonna do the rest of my life. I need $1,000. And she's like, and I'm like, I'm gonna start making these weed pipes. And this is like 98. This is before any medical state. I mean, this is like early on, you know. And she was like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, dude, like just trust me. I'm gonna change the world, you know. And so she like woos me the money. You know what I mean? Because that's what you did back then. Because there was no PayPal or Venmo, you know.
Western Union.
Yeah. You woo that shit out. So she wooed it to me, and I ended up paying this guy, and I watched him, for like a month. But basically, after I don't even remember if it was the first day that I started to watch or it was the first day that I actually started blowing glass. I think it was one of the first days that I started blowing glass, but I watched this guy for like a month do it, and everyone back then was super secretive, right? So like all of the information wasn't being shared unless you were paying for it or like you guys were like willing,
insider information.
Yeah. So even at this studio, there's basically like blinders between each person, so that like if someone was really good, that maybe they had some secret technique that they weren't going to show like the next guy, because it was people's money in their pocket, right?
Yeah, they were trying to sell pipes.
And it was basically like I ended up being like the youngest, least experienced in that studio. So after like a month of me watching like this guy, I was gonna start. Well, he's like, oh, I'm moving into the shop next door, and you can have my bench. And that was it. I gave him $1,000. I watched it for a month. As soon as I start, he's gone, right? So then
he just needed $1,000 to skip down.
I mean, pretty much. So like, I definitely learned, like, I watched a lot, but dude, I remember the first fucking day I turned that torch on, I was so scared, bro. It was like this fucking big ball of fire, and it's so intense,
Yeah.
But the very first, so when like I day one is of me getting like on the torch, was basically like after I got done like watching him, and he moved out. The other two shop mates asked me to like if like I wanted to go to Golden, Colorado to go get supplies. Now, the reason that like Boulder, Colorado had an actual glass scene is actually because there was like a major supplier there for the United States, one of the only suppliers that has like a laboratory place that sells Pyrex glass.
Okay.
Now we use borosilicate Pyrex glass. Borosilicate is like the actual technical like name for the glass. It was originally made for borosilicate.
Borosilicate.
Yeah, and it was originally made because it was a non-corrosive glass that is good for science experiments. And meaning like if you would put like a chemicals that you would do a chemical reaction, like combining things together in this glass, that the chemistry of the glass wouldn't corrode and affect the actual chemistry that was happening in it.
Gotcha.
And that the glass was made to be non-corrosive, and it's also made to be like heat resistant, so it can go up and down in like heat without cracking, right? So that was the original like.
And this place that supplies them.
Yes,
is in
town. This place that like supplies that it like a lot of the country with like laboratory like tools, torches, and then they just started making color at that point, and they were there in like close to Boulder. So, but that's kind of when like these hippies realized that this type of glass is good for smoking weed from. So because of the actual,
chemical properties of the
well that, and just because that they had access to supplies.
Oh, because it was so.
It was readily there was readily available.
In that area,
solely in that area.
Gotcha.
So this became a like pocket of where people started to blow glass. So basically, there's a like couple spots: Eugene, Oregon, Boulder, Colorado. These are like some of the original hot spots that people started like making pipes in. Like when I was there was a couple warehouses at that point. There was probably at least like 100 people making glass pipes at that time, between like all of the warehouses, like making bongs, and there was like head shops in Boulder.
Yeah.
And so basically, my first time to go to Golden is the first day that is the first day of my new life, because basically there's this guy Smiley and Josh and this dog Sequoia, right?
Sequoia.
Right, yeah. So they're like, yo, we're gonna go for a supply run tomorrow. And do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, I'm down, but I gotta be at like my job at like noon. They're like, oh, it only takes like a fucking hour to get there. We'll leave by 10, or and you know we'll like get you, or like we'll be back. Yeah. So we like hop in this like like the like big white like rape vans like the with like no windows. Yeah. So he's the one guy, Josh, kind of lives in and out of there, and he's got like a couch in the back, and so those two sit up front. I'm with Sequoia in the back. We're just like smoking.
You're with the dog.
I'm with the dog
in the back
because on the couch. I'm like I'm the lowest man on like the totem poles. I was always on the shit end of like the stick. You know what I'm saying? So we're smoking weed on our way out there. I'm looking at the time. We literally finally get to Golden. They totally lied to me. They're like, we fucking get there, and it was like I pretty much had to be in work in like 20 minutes, and it took us like an hour and something to get there. So then I get there, and like I'm looking at the supplies. I'm like, this is like where you need to buy all your shit at, blah blah blah. We fucking drive back. They have their supplies. We go back to the shop. I get my car. I get to work. I'm 2 hours late.
And you have a boss.
I have a boss at BJ's brewing factory there.
Okay.
And
so you're still doing the.
This is my last day, because when I got back that 2 hours later,
they fired you.
I was fired. That was it. And then that was fucking day one. That was the last day that I worked for anyone.
Wow.
So then from that day on, I started making glass pipes.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. So then like
in Boulder?
In Boulder. So then and that's I was on basically.
What year is this?
This is 1998, and I got on the torch my first day, Halloween of 1998.
Wow.
And then like I started making bong slides for was like the first thing that like I made. And I ended up going to the guy Mo that like I originally taught. He's like, dude, you got to go to the fish show and go sell them in lot. And like,
so there's like the slide. It's a slide part on the bong.
Yeah.
So people get like custom
I mean, not even just like that was like the easiest thing to make when you're like a novice, right? Like it was like was just like
day one shit is just like a little.
I mean, it's just basic, bro.
It's a hunk.
Yeah, it's a hunk. So like
with a handle, like.
Yeah. So then like. Literally, so
people would buy them for like.
Listen, there was not even a market. Yeah. It was just like I was making this, and
you could sell.
Yeah, right. So like the like hustle back then that all these guys did is me, Josh, and Smiley would get in the van, and we would go to all of the head shops between Boulder and Denver on the weekend. So we would work all week and then fucking haul pile in the van. And then stop at the head shops and like pull out our fucking gun cases and like sell shit and make just enough money to fucking pay for the gas and propane and some weed, which is always needed, you know.
Yeah, that's in the budget.
Yeah, you know, and like it was it was definitely just really amazing and a really crazy time, you know. So.
And now you're I mean, that, like you said, that's all you've been doing since then. Since then, yes. And your work now is amazing. Like I was going through, because like I said, we met in Tulum, and then I think we exchanged Instagrams, and I checked out some of your stuff. Like it's just like next level. Like I haven't really seen stuff that's that cool to me, like glass. It's just like. I mean, it's a certain style. Sometimes there's certain styles with like. But yours is like kind of culturally relevant and like. Well, has your own flavor of art in it.
Well, you know what is like I love art, and I've been since then like I started blowing glass in 98. We're now in 2021. I'm on 22 and a half years of doing this, and I never made art before. Like I never was influenced to go to art school or pick up a paintbrush. I never drew anything. I never made music. The like closest thing was skateboarding.
Yeah.
And whatever. It's like, so basically like at that point, I didn't know anything about it till I realized I started making glass, and I'll go into this more about getting more educated about art. And that happens when I get back to like Philadelphia. So basically I only lived in Boulder for a year or two. I basically felt like I was drawn up there by like a higher power type thing. Like I'm leaving the hell desert, going to the promised land to pick up some
going
crazy
greener pastures.
Yeah, greener pastures to pick up this like fucking crazy weird trade. You know what I'm saying? And then I was going back to Philly. I'm like, I hated Boulder, Colorado because everything was done at 10 o'clock. You couldn't fucking like
no raves.
There's no raves. Well, there's nowhere fucking to eat. Like all you could get was like Taco Bell. I mean, like I'm used to the city. Like growing up, even in the suburbs, I spent so much time downtown that
the late night spots.
Yeah, I mean, like everything's 24 hours. You know, I mean, you can just live. It's like New York. You know, it's not as maybe extreme as 24 hours, but you can get amazing food all at any time of like the day in Philadelphia. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I went to a diner when we got there. When I told you, me and my homie, we went there for the Super Bowl. We ended up like missing it all, so we just walked around South Street at like 3 a.m. looking at carnage, and we went into like this diner that's right there.
Oh yeah. No, I've actually like spent some time at that diner after some raves, like for sure.
That feels like that type of
spot. It definitely is. It's been there.
Anybody
like,
could roll up in there
forever, bro. So like,
what's it called?
It's on like 2nd and South. I think it's called just South Street Diner.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, it's definitely just like it's old school.
It's like super dinery feel though. I love that. Wherever I go. That's
Hun. What's up? You know,
they're Hun,
they're like really that. You know, that's some Philly shit. You know,
straight Philly jump.
Pretty much. And so then basically, like after a month of me being on like the tour, so I go to my first Fish show, and I literally sell the absolute first things that I ever made, and I got some money in my pocket, not a lot. I got like $150. I got
you can do something with that though.
I got a ticket to the show.
Nice.
And I got a fucking someone gave me a big boulder of fucking Molly.
Ooh.
And I go into the show selling my first things that I ever made.
So Molly has been a thing.
It was like ecstasy. Yeah, you know. So like I have this crazy, you know, experience of being like rewarded with I make my first stuff and I sell it. I have cash in my hand.
You get to have an experience.
All this stuff. And like I came from the rave scene where I traveled around a lot, going to raves in different cities. But the whole like Fish and like Grateful Dead thing, I was kind of unfamiliar with. And then I realized that, you know, our culture was really kind of infused with that culture. Like Grateful Dead is where like glass pipe making actually took off from, right? Like dead lots. And we'll go into that. It's maybe at like some other point, but you know, so then after that, my buddy was like, that I went there to like the show with. He's like, yo, you want to go to the next show in Chicago? And we fucking drove my fucking illegal car. No, we didn't even make it in the show, dude. Like we fucking sold some shit out there and I barely made any money. It was so not worth it. So like I ended up like dragging my ass back to like Colorado and just like, basically I became so fucking poor that I moved into the shop with everyone else that was living in the shop. Everyone lived in the shop. Wow. And it was like 5 fucking people that lived in this glass shop all on their own couches and 2 dogs and a rat. Okay. And yeah, it was a full fucking house. And basically like we just all worked all day. I worked trying to figure this like shit out, you know? And I my boy Smiley actually like saw me working so much. He finally broke down and was like, I'm removed the divider and was like, I'm going to teach you like, and he was really good. You know what I mean? And so he started showing me like a lot more, letting me understand more. And he saw like the like dedication that I like had, you know? And I ended up like moving into the shop because obviously I wasn't making enough money to support anything. So basically that spring is when like I got through, like I told you, I started in like October. I made it through the like winter time. And then that spring, I'm like, I'm moving back to Philly this summer. Like I can't fucking like
manage it.
I can't live like this anymore. And like, I think that there's be more opportunity for me out there. Especially I looked at it as like, okay, there is like actually like business there. There is like a whole economy of it because there's like the supplier, there's the glass blowers, and then there's like
Stoners.
Stoners and head shops that were willing to buy this stuff.
But more importantly, stoners.
Well, actually, more importantly, head shops that were willing to purchase this work. Because
right. Okay. So you're okay.
like I'm talking about the whole economy.
So who buys the? Okay.
Well,
so they just put it in their supply. They needed to fill.
Yeah,
some
it was just
shelves.
become like a culture. There, it became like a business. Like
Gotcha.
there's a whole like economy based on this. You
Gotcha.
know. So and there's money to be made. Like Boulder's a fucking college stoner town. You know. So there's a couple head shops we'd go to and they'd buy weekly. You know. And then I reached out. I was going to like. I was actually since I like had a car, I was willing. I drove up to Fort Collins. This is before the internet, so to like search out new business, you just fucking drove and asked around for a fucking head shop. You know what I mean? Or like
pull up to somebody.
Yeah, like where's the closest head shop and like figure out like
over there.
You know what I mean? So like,
pre-map quest even.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't even on the internet. You know, like that. I didn't get on the internet until 2005, like MySpace. MySpace is like there's this other website called glasspipes.org, which was this it was like a forum, and it was right after see, we haven't even got to like really this part of like my career, but there's a thing they called Operation Pipe Dreams that happened, I think, in 2001 or 2002, where basically like the federal government came down because basic what I still do is technically still federally illegal, right? So making glass pipes is paraphernalia, and paraphernalia is still federally illegal, which is why there's all sorts of weird transactions. Like you can't use PayPal, you can't use like a lot of things will kick you off for selling this stuff, especially if it's like open through like if you have your PayPal linked up to like a web store and you're selling pipes, like they'll like seize your money. That's a whole other fucking story though.
Yeah.
But I ended up ended up basically deciding that I was gonna move back to like Philadelphia then, and dude, I was so fucking broke that I couldn't afford shit. And I ended up finding this like hippie chick that lived in like a fucking that actually ended up basically being like a sugar mama, like straight up, that like took me in, and she lived in like the fucking trailer park, like next to the fucking warehouses, and then next to her was this older like lady, and she had these two apple trees that she was too old to fucking actually pick up these apples. So that spring,
she was too old to pick up apples.
Dude, she was old as fuck, dude. Like she was just old and fat and fucking just like, I don't even know. Like she was just like an elderly lady and was basically like, if you want these apples, you can take them. And so I literally ate fucking 5 to 6 apples a day for months. Like that was like a huge part of my diet because it was free. And then the other time, like,
snack. It was like,
but not even a snack, dude. That was like meals. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were just that broke, you know. And so, you know, it was definitely. And I never even liked apples before then, but I didn't like them then either. But it was calories, right? You're like survival mode, you know? Yeah. So then basically like, you know, I made it through the spring, and I was able to save up enough money to make it back across, like barely, like make it back across the like country, you know? I get back home. My parents are still like separated at this point. And I like move in with like my like mom, and she only now has like a 2-bedroom apartment, and she has my little brothers like half the time, and they stay in that room. So then now I'm the guy on the couch. You know what I mean? And I come back, I start hanging out with my old friends. I start doing drugs again. Like in like Colorado, I actually kicked doing everything. Like I wasn't doing any drugs. I was just working. I found like my shit, you know. And then did
you bring your gear back?
I did, and like I told my family, I'm like, listen, dude, I'm gonna do this, like, and like, you know, I want your support. And my parents didn't want it. They're like, you know, like, you need to go back to college, you need to go to school and get educated. Making weed pipes is not gonna fucking like, you know, it's just not gonna work, you know. And then like I was also just got wrapped up in like, you know, the same people that I like was hanging out with before that like kind of weren't going places, you know? And so at like some point, my mom was like, you kind of got to move out. Like, I can't deal with you. Yeah. You know, and I basically I found a shop to work in. I found this guy named Brian Regan and this dude named Gateson that were blowing a different type of glass. They actually blew soft glass as well as doing flamework glass, which is basically two different techniques of working with glass. You either have one where you have like a molten pit of glass that you pick up the glass with like metal tubes and rods, and then you have the type of glass that we work with, which we work with like basically manufactured tubes and rods that are glass, that are cold, that we heat up in front of a torch and manipulate, and then we use a like kiln to put in to let them cool off so that they cool off evenly and not crack. But I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and you can use the same tools depending on like what you
can get to a similar result.
No, you use like a lot of the same principles of actually blowing glass, and like it's just on a smaller scale. What we do is like really refined. We work on a smaller scale, but we can make stuff that is really detailed compared to in like a hot shop, and it's a little more loose. You make a lot larger scale stuff.
So you can take like these little pieces and sort of like
and weld them together. Yeah. So it's sort of, like, I mean, people have gotten really good at this point. Like we literally like like within the United States, we've created this, like the pipe market is something that we've created locally here, you know. And go ahead.
I gotta take a piss again.
All right.
I just gotta take a piss. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Oh yeah, we were talking about the different types of glass. Okay, yeah. So I met these guys, Brian Regan, and this dude named Gateson that worked at a classic hot shop studio in Philadelphia called Hot Soup. I just came in there one day and was like, I'm looking for a shop to work in, because like you basically need a very specific thing to blow glass in. Like you need like concrete floors. This is all like, I mean, obviously you can make shift in something like this, but it would barely work. Like you need a kiln, which then it needs enough power, and then you need ventilation. Like this, you need fresh air coming in because you're like combusting gas, and then you're also
chemicals.
Like you know, just like cobalt glass, right? There's cobalt oxide in that, just like there'd be in like cobalt paint. You know, it's like the same thing. You know, it's not exactly the same, but it's like you
chemicals.
So if you're not working in like a ventilated area, it can be toxic. You know, so.
Word.
And it's not like it's something of a long-term thing, you know. It's not like in one day you're gonna fucking just croak and die. But it's better if you have a more serious like setup. And I actually started in a shop that was actually like a really industrial place. Luckily, like that was. It was actually like you know, the people that I started with were already doing it a couple years before me. Like they weren't like me. We weren't all in it at the same time, you know. So I was living in Bucks County, which is about 45 minutes north of Philadelphia, and they were like, "Yeah, you can come like work in our shop," and Gateson is 10 years older than I am. I'm now at that point 20. Okay, I was reckless, like just they called me the like feral child. Like I was just like left out in the wild for a while. I was just real loose. I was back into like partying. Like someone in Colorado like gave me a fake ID, and so I was like going to like the nightclubs in Philly. It was partying again or whatever. And basically, my mom was like, "You need to like get the fuck out." So then basically.
So this dude, what's his name?
Brian Regan and Gateson.
So Brian's 30. You're
20. No. Gateson's 30 and I'm 20, and it's his shop, and we basically just had conflicts of like interest. Like I was too wild to work in there. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we were just on different paths, you know. And like I think that like I just picked up on it really quickly. too, and I think that there might have been a little, I don't want to say this, that there was intimidation, but I was just like, people were a little more secretive back then, you know, about information. And so,
very competitive.
It was competitive. There was only a couple of people doing it. You know what I mean? It was not a very, like, you know, I helped be a huge part of like blowing this like scene up, you know?
No pun intended.
Yeah, totally. So then like, so then basically my mom's like, you got to get the fuck out. And they kicked me out, like out of their shop. I'm like, so now I have like nowhere to work. My parents are like, my mom's like, you got to get the fuck out. So then I go to this fucking Black Star show at like the electric factory in Philadelphia, while I'm still like living with my mom still. And I run into this other shady cat named Oscar. And we were friends in like high school, and we went to a couple of raves together and shit, but he lived in Philly, and he was like, yo, I live on 12th and South, and like I just had like a roommate like move out. We kind of live in like the hood. I'm like, I'm looking for a place I can possibly blow glass. Hey, dude, you definitely blow glass there. It's in the hood. No one gives a fuck. Blah blah blah. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm fucking like, I found a place. I'm with it. I've got somewhere to go, right? So I like pack up the couple things I had. I basically had to leave my car with my family and like have them just deal with selling it. I mean, I couldn't afford it, and
it
like,
was a shitty car.
Well, at that point, yeah. I mean, it was just like it was just not taken care of because there was no money to take care of it, you know. And that was actually like kind of the fucking problem with like working at the studio when I was staying at my mom's. And the studio was actually in downtown Philly, so it was a 40-minute drive, and like that 40 minutes ate up so much gas that I was barely making any, like I wasn't making any money, you know. And my parents saw that, you know, so they were like, "What are you doing? Whatever." So
you're out. You moved with your
so now I'm gonna move in to 12th and South, and I'm gonna move into this 2 or 3 bedroom spot, and it was a ghetto. It was fucking like, it just been ran through, right? And so I get all my shit moved in. The second day there, I fucking wake up to fucking crackheads in the spot, moving everything that we own on the street. And lo and like behold, he didn't tell me that they haven't paid rent there in months. That's why his fucking roommate left, and that they were getting evicted. And I was like a last shot thing. So now I'm on the fucking street with all my shit. That's it. I had nowhere else to go.
Fuck.
Yeah. So I'm like on the street
with your shit, like,
with like my shit on the street. Like,
I can't even take this shit anywhere.
I can't even take this shit anywhere. And then literally next door, we live like next door to.
And you're in Philly?
I'm in Philly, downtown.
Damn.
Yeah.
Not the best place to be.
On 12th and South.
Just
like
outside.
that was definitely like the projects were still up like 2 blocks away. I was there when they blew up the like projects in like 99 or 2000.
Whoa, okay.
That were like down like literally like a couple blocks away, because the fucking high rises there were like impenetrable by the police. You know what I'm saying? So they were just, you know,
blow it up.
Yeah, there was just, it was like Philly was fucking lawless for a while. You know what I mean?
Damn.
It was basically a town that like everyone left. It was like it had an industrial revolution, and I think
that faded probably.
Because I think what happened is that, and I don't know, I'm no like exact historian on this, but I think a lot of the factories were built in a certain way in downtown Philly, where they would start with like building a product on the top floor, and then they would like roll it down, and then when the product was done and ready to be shipped, it'd be on the bottom floor and be out. Well, then they started, like the Midwest happened, where they started making things on like one level, like these giant warehouses where they could like, you know,
circular,
like it'd be like on a track, you know, and how they would build a car or like produce anything. Now it's just, they don't have to go up and down. It became more efficient for like people to build stuff, you know. So that whole industry left, and then like crack and heroin hit, and people, like everyone moved to the burbs, you know, and then like Philly was empty, like
whoever's left,
yeah, right. So now I'm like on the street with like my shit. I literally, like, next door lived to these other fucking art student kids that went to like Temple and they basically saw me on like the street with all my shit. They're like, dude, do you need like somewhere to go? I was like, yeah, I do, Dad. And they're like, come on, Ed. So they fucking like let these strangers let me in with my stuff. I end up living on their couch, partying with these dudes. And they let me live there for 2 years on the couch while I was like blowing glass in the basement. I was blowing glass.
2 years?
2 years out, like a year and a half almost, that I was like strung out. Fucking all of us were partying, fucking like eating farmies, like just a total mess. But like a lot of stuff happened where like I never met any other artists, right? I only worked in like a pipe shop. Like a glass studio, right?
Like people are just sort of building glass.
Oh no, just like they made pipes, but like they weren't like educated about art. So now, like where I was located at, I was on 12th and South. I was basically on UArt's campus, downtown. Even though the people that I stayed with were students from like Temple, I ended up like. Because I was the same age as them. I was 19. I was 20 years old. You know, that's when like I started, like I was the same age as like students. So like I was going to parties and locally I started skating more.
You were an honorary student?
Yeah. I like literally have snuck in. I became friends with people that went to UArts, and that's how I ended up learning about basic art, like focal points, negative space, color theory. Like their like program there is like Swiss. One of their major programs is like graphic design, and it's like kind of like I guess I was kind of explaining that it's more like Swiss design. So it's like a very like refined, minimal, and like only things are. There's no frou-frou, right? Everything is only needed for its purpose and like. Yeah. Like whatever. So that's where I started to learn about art. So I was actually like heavily doing drugs with all these other students.
And they were art kids.
And like when they were doing their homework, I was there learning, right? And then I actually started sneaking into like UArts. I've blown glass there. I've carved stone there. I've set in on like different speakers that have like came through there. I just put on a backpack and I would just walk in, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And
I've done that shit too.
Yeah, and so then
you actually voluntarily went to college.
Well, yeah, I mean, well,
for a couple of things.
I mean, for a couple of things
at your leisure.
Like, I mean, everyone thought that I went to UArts, like all like that whole, because it's a whole like a whole neighborhood, and there'd be all these like how like Philly was like built. There was like in this area, there was all these like, it wasn't like part of the school, but there was like these neighborhoods that had these courtyards, these like they'd have like like row homes that surrounded the whole block, and then have like an open courtyard in like the middle. But those would all be housing, like student housing for like UArts, and there'd be parties there on the weekend and fucking like
so
and we're slinging whatever. We're just like just living an inner city life, right?
As a 20-year-old.
Yeah. So I started to really learn a love for art, and started to be like, whoa, I'm so much more interested now about art. And like, I didn't even know what art was. Like, I didn't even know what it was, period. Like what it meant, what it was for, or like why people did it. It was never ever put in front of me before then, until after I started making pipes, and then I started learning from these students about art, and so then basically like there was like a time I was starting to party again, on like I got pretty fucked up again at that time too, and then finally I came to and decided like, all right, I don't want to be homeless anymore. I don't want to just be couch surfing, and like I got to stop doing drugs. Like the house, once we moved out of that house, it got condemned. Like straight up, there was like fuck. I woke up to like rats coming out of the trash, and was like, like, because we were right next to this pizza shop, and their backyard was the dumpster, and fucking like, dude, it was just like, it was fucking bad, dude.
Hot spot.
It was a hot spot. So then like it was one of these things where I like you have like a moment of like clarity, right? You're like, all right, I'm gonna fucking die. or I'm gonna fucking make it through this, you know. And then I basically was like, still like, I learned to do a little bit of business by going to the Electric Factory and going to these concerts and selling to like all these like hippie type bands that would come through, because that was the only place for it. There wasn't any other place to sell pipes, you know. And I'd sell them to college students, but dude, it was like a hit. I mean, there was no like consistent.
You're like, hey, do you want to buy some glass pipes? And then someone has
I mean, it was so inconsistent, you know. There was no market or like
strategy,
nothing. It was just like, there was no internet still, you know. There was no like places to actually sell them at. And so, you know, then like basically like I got really lucky that I ended up being my like my business partner for like a while later on. And he basically was like, you know, if you sober up, I'll start buying all your glass. And I was like, oh, okay. So then like I got my shit together, right? And when someone gives you, and I'm a person that someone gives me an opportunity, I'm gonna fucking take it, right?
Yeah.
You know. So he started buying like all my stuff. So then I got smart and started realizing what type of work I could make the fastest and most efficiently. And my bills were low. So I finally, like, you know, after I ended up moving in with one of the other dudes. I ended up couch surfing for about 2.5 years for like between all this shit, because I just didn't have enough money.
Like 95 to 98.
No. This is from like 99. Well, yeah, I mean, I was couch surfing at the shop in 98 out there. And then I moved into Philly. I was couch surfing in my mom's house. And I was couch surfing on this couch for like a year and like a half, and then I was couch surfing another year. So pretty much until 2002, right, is when I got my first apartment. It was like my fucking girlfriend at the time. We were actually breaking up, but she was like, yo, I've got some friends that like just got a fucking house like deep in South Philly, and they're like renting it from their like cousin, and they just are like paying the fucking mortgage, and the mortgage was $530. And so it was a 3-bedroom place. It was like I could only fit a bed into this room. You know what I mean? Like that was, I only slept there.
Yeah.
But
it was a walk-in closet.
Yeah, it was a walk-in closet, but it was so cheap, and it was my first place that I could like call my room. You know what I'm saying? And
so it was like $175 a month.
It was $175 a month. And then I was sober at that point, or I was like not partying as hard by a lot, right? And I figured out a way. I was making really good money. I was making like $500-600 a day, like blowing glass, right? I was making like 3 or 4 $150 pieces a day, and then I would do that 4 days a week, and then I had a fucking knot. You know what I mean? And I only had $175 rent. So then I was like, yeah, I just literally do whatever the fuck I wanted. Yeah. You know what I mean? Still, you know, it's like fucking.
And how old are you? You're still 20, in the 20,
I'm 22 there. Yeah. I'm like 22.
So
yeah.
I had a similar experience. Like when I moved to New York, I basically started working at this hotel in Midtown, and it was like a bougie hotel. And like my job before this was like, I don't know, like canning seafood in the summer, like at a seafood factory.
Yo, it's so funny. My fucking my best friend Slinger did that shit in like Alaska. He like hitchhiked up to Alaska and worked at a fishing fucking like. Yeah. They did that shit too.
So I moved to New York, and I'm like, so I think I'm 22, about to turn 23, and I got a job at this hotel, and I was making like $250 in cash tips. Like,
damn, that's pretty good.
Yeah, like I was making, and I was in a union, so I was getting like $15 an hour plus all the benefits, everything. So I was like, I could do whatever I want in this city.
Yeah. Like especially if your rent's low too, you know.
For me, it didn't even, I was making so much. Like my rent was, I mean, it's like maybe $500, but I was making like.
Yeah, I mean, you're making that in 2 days. So
I wouldn't even count. You
start getting ready for rent on like the 25th.
No, my checks I would never even look at my checks. Like they would just be direct deposited, and I would just always have cash but I would like go out. I would blow it every night. I would have no cash left.
Always, right?
And then I'd go like tomorrow I'll make like this amount of money again.
Yeah.
That's so I was like the same age, like I just had more. I felt like I could do anything.
I mean, yeah.
Like this amount of money from where I was.
Yeah,
which was
definitely.
Like when gas was $5 a gallon.
Oh man, I have this funny story. Is like I ended up like Valentine's Day, like the same time. It was like right when I got that apartment. I was single at the time, and I was like blowing glass all day, and then like I ended up like hitting up my buddy Josh, and he's like, I was like, yo, what's up? You want to go get some drinks? He's like, dude, it's fucking Valentine's Day. I'm with my fucking girl. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I didn't even fucking know.
Yeah,
you know,
I was my head's at.
yeah. Like I ended up like going to this place called Tattoo Moms, and I ended up seeing this fucking girl there named Natalie, and she was like this UArts girl that like I definitely had a fucking thing for, but I had a fucking girlfriend at like the time, and then but we never hooked up. I never cheated on her with her or anything like that. But then I saw her once we were like broken up, and it was like we're playing pool that night, and I just sold like a bunch of glass. You know, I like got done. I had a pocket full of money. And like
can't tell you nothing.
Yeah, can't tell me nothing, you know. So I'm playing pool all night at the spot, and then I get done. I walk up to her. I'm like, I'm going home with like you tonight. And she's like, you're definitely coming home with me tonight. And I was like, yo, I fucking got stuck there for like fucking. I think I was at her house for maybe 10 to 12 days straight.
Well, you just stayed there.
We just stayed there. We were literally smoking and fucking and just ordering takeout. She bathed me at one point. Like shit was fucking, and we just spent all my cash. Like literally, we just like that's what. Yeah, worth it. It was great. And then how it ended, it was I finally left. And that was it. We broke up. Yeah. Like it was just like a 2-week like
Utopia.
Super like like it was fucking wild.
We can't go back into the mortal world.
Like literally, dude, it was fucking wild.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. So I definitely like at that point. Then I think it was probably within like the next year, all my friends that were going to UR, so I was like became my best friends that I still work with now, or like, you know, whatever, they were graduating, you know.
So you were graduating.
I graduated with them. I mean, people literally thought I was like graduating from that school, you know. And so whatever.
They're like, you gotta be a senior right now.
No, I know, right? And so then like I like came up with this idea that we were going to open up a glass pipe making school on not Temple. What's the other fucking school? On 31st and like Spring Garden, there's Drexel, on Drexel's campus, right? So I was like, yo, we're gonna fucking. So me and my business partner at like the time, like, yo, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fucking go over there. We're gonna open up a little spot to teach people how to make pipes, and we're gonna open up our own head shop there, and we're gonna sell to all the students. Then we're gonna crush it, right? And then we fucking like basically like I also got kicked out of my shop that I was working in with this dude named John Kasoris, and like, you know, I got a lot of like great things to say about this guy, but we just had like, you know, a falling out, you know. But basically he was the only one that was willing to take me in when I was pretty strung out, you know, because and he ended up like actually getting me into some like other like professional classes. So I've actually studied at like the Corning Museum of Glass, and I've also studied glass at Salem Community College, which is not that far away from Philadelphia either. And then it's kind of circles back around to why Philadelphia has like this like major glass scene.
It has those little hubs.
It has these. Well, like basically, you know, the Corning Museum of Glass has the largest glass art collection in North America, and they have like one of the only facilities where they have like contemporary artists that come in and you can take like intensive workshops with and whatnot. And then Salem Community College is actually the only scientific glass blowing program in the United States.
Wow.
So that became another hub of like where all these students were like, I want to learn how to make pipes. Well, they'd either go to fucking there to like go to learn the science, but they can't make pipes there, but they're learning all the tools to use that afterwards they're working for bong companies. Like, you know what I mean? Like seriously, like place guys like Philadelphia would go there and like cherry pick.
Yeah, they're like engineers for.
Well, yeah, well, they would cherry pick them from like graduating classes.
Totally.
You know what I mean, and offer them a ton of money.
Totally.
You know, so whatever. So I don't know where I was going with this.
You were with the chick.
No. We were
Valentine's.
No,
Day?
we've already gotten past that. We're yeah, that's what your head said. You're like, I'm trying to get paid down and shit. You know. So,
exactly.
So like
you had me. I'm stuck. I'm like, that's all I can think about right now.
Yeah, rose petals. You know what I'm saying? So no, like we decided that we were gonna open up this like school, right?
Oh, right.
And so. So then like we literally straight up the day that we have our like opening, we have this huge party, and like on Drexel's campus where we were at, still so fucking ghetto, dude. We were throwing like straight college parties we had this little backyard area and we threw these fucking major parties. We would buy 10 kegs and throw these free fucking parties and people be blowing glass and shit. But literally oh yeah, it was a fucking
it's like a marketing event.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, so we like got the spot. We opened up. That fucking day is when this thing called Operation Pipe Dreams happened in like America, where all the federal government came in and indicted all these fucking people that were making pipes, and people went to jail. They lost their fortunes and all this shit. I was still too young and low on like the totem pole to be noticed. And like, you know, there's some of these companies that were on the beginning of like the internet. They were making internet sales, and that's kind of where,
yeah,
like,
you were just kind of localized.
Yeah, I was like localized or whatever.
But
so
you were shook a little bit.
we were like basically like
nope.
I stopped making pipes that day.
Mm-hmm.
For about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were like planning on making pipes, and like, so this is in Pennsylvania, and everyone that was indicted to like, they had to come to Pennsylvania for the court case. So it was actually it was like a federal prosecution, but it was I think the court case was actually in Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure if that's 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's what what was going on. So obviously we got like super shook,
mm-hmm.
and so we had to like rearrange shit, like everything. Like our whole business plan was not a plan anymore. Yeah, no, there was no plan. Yeah. It was like, holy shit, we spent all this time and money and like building this fucking shop, but it's also. Oh yeah, I was going back to where it comes down. I started the shop because I got kicked out of another shop, right? Johnny Kutsouris. So this guy, right? He is a really talented dude. He actually plays the mandolin and is like unbelievable. This guy can hear anything and like play, right? Yeah. And he like comes from like this family of like, they're all Greek and they all play different string instruments.
Like family band kind of.
Yeah, like the one guy plays a sitar. His dad plays some other crazy string instrument, and he plays the mandolin and like banjo, because he's like really into like bluegrass. And but he also lamp work too, and he's really fucking good. But he was more tied in with like getting like at Corning, and like took classes up there, and he wasn't able to take some classes that he got into because you had to like apply for them, and I got recommended there. And so while I was kind of strung out and I was fucked up, he would like basically let me work in the shop, whatever, like always kind of believed in me. And then by the end, like basically I started doing really well. I kicked my like habit, and then I ended up was doing like better more like financially than like he was. And I always felt indebted to him for it, so I would like let him use my like color stash, meaning like you'd have to buy supplies of like color to like make work. And I was doing really well, where like I was using so much color that I was getting discounts and I'm buying in bulk and fucking like whatever, and I'd always kick him down some, but he never had a good work ethic. And so, you know, he would just work enough each month to pay his rent and pay like whatever, but he never got on top. And I was always there more. And then finally, like one fucking day, he like comes in, and I'm like blowing glass, and he's kind of hot tempered, right? And but he's, like I said, he's a fucking good dude. We all have our fucking battles we got to deal with, right? He like went right to my box of like color and took some, just didn't ask, you know? And then finally at that point, it's been like months that I've been doing this, that I finally feel like I think we're squared up, you know what I'm saying? So I finally say something. I'm like, yo, do you want to buy some glass? He looks at me, and next thing you know, we're just fucking fighting. Yeah. Yeah.
Just the cuss.
Yeah, and I have like the torches on, the fucking glass in my hand. I dropped that. I got him in a fucking headlock. I got his like face.
There's a torch and glass.
Yeah.
And you guys fighting.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I fucking like basically I had him in a fucking headlock and had his face in the ground. He just couldn't move anymore.
You're like, bro.
I'm like, are you gonna chill the fuck out?
Yeah.
Like, cause I'm like, if I let this dude go, I'm gonna be like on my back, and he's gonna be on top, and I'm gonna get fucked up. Totally. You know. Finally, I'm like, there was someone else there to help diffuse it a little bit, and we got up. He's like, all right, get your shit, get the fuck out. Like, that was it. So that's how this other glass shop started, was I got kicked out, and we're now like friends now, and we respect each other, and like whatever. We had to have that happen. You know what I mean?
To happen.
Yeah, and it's all good, and I thank him for always being there, to actually believing in me, because he was one of the only ones that would actually that like help me get to where I'm at, you know?
Sometimes there's that dynamic where, you know, you have to like shed your mentors. There's that moment, and sometimes it can be, you know, intense. Yeah. But it's important.
So that's how we start Philadelphia Glassworks, which is now going to be this head shop studio. So I move across town, and we moved to 31st and Spring Garden, which is like right on like the like corner. And the actual storefront has a window, and the window looks at the art museum, you know, which was like, to me, was this like, you know, it's like this like I'd always look out and be like inspired, right? Knowing that that's what I'm looking at and striving for.
Yeah, that's what I see every day.
And so I purposely designed it that like my like bench where I worked at, that when I stopped for a second and took a little break and look, I would see that, you know, as like as this
treat
reminder, you know. And yeah, so then like, you know, this Operation Pipe dreams happen. I already was like taking classes about learning other skills besides making pipes, because it's kind of like use certain tools and you use a certain set of parameters. Like when you make objects, there's certain things that are like a mindset, right? Like if you break down a pipe to be exactly what makes it work, right? You need a mouthpiece, a place to put the weed, and then a little carb that you like let go, right? That clears the actual chamber. That's the basic. Those are the three main things.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. And then
to be a bong, technically, or
a pipe
and glass.
Like a pipe in like general, right?
Yeah,
but but then you can route that artistically however you want. It's infinite,
totally,
right? And it's kind of like the same thing if you look at, let's say, a like goblet. There's like the vessel that holds the liquid, the stem that you would hold on to, and then the foot that that keeps it upright. You know, those are the three main parts. You have to have those to be an actual goblet, but you can reroute it and change the shape, and like, so it's like, you know, it's an actual like mindset, and there's certain tools and like parameters that you would do for each one, right? So I was learning, so because like I was getting into these classes, I started studying with like these Italian masters, and one of them, his name was Emilio Santini. Now he's like a 14th generation
glassblower.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he like came from Italy to like teach in like America, and like he got married and has like a wife that I think is a teacher too, and I think they both teach in Virginia still. I'm not exactly sure, but
so you were studying under him?
I was studying like under him, learning how to use the Venetian style tools that are basically the same tools that transfer to the like hot shop, which what I was telling you about before, which is like the other way of working with like glass. So you
just like from a block.
Yeah, oh no, well it's not from a block. It's actually from a molten pit of glass. So they like have like a kiln with a like crucible, which would be like, let's say like a clay pot, that there's molten glass in there. It's like liquid.
Well, so does that come from sand?
Well,
so
yeah.
You
would either buy it and like cull it, which means that someone already like processed it to glass, but then they have it in like little chunks, and you
put them all on
you would like shovel it in there while it's hot, and then it all melts back down. Or they actually like I make it with batch is like what it's called, and it looks like sand, but it's like got sand and it's got a couple other different chemicals that when it melts down that it becomes glass, like when it gets hot to like a certain temperature.
Okay.
Right. But
so but you generally like to
I mainly did flame working, but knowing that I wanted to work in the hot shop as well, I started taking these Italian style classes in flame working using these tools. So in 2005,
what are the tools?
They're called like one of the main tools they're called jacks, which basically look like giant tweezers. I mean, you would not. I mean, if you don't know, it's just like if you look at them, you're like, oh, those are just big tweezers. Like, but they're like, it's in a certain Italian made tool that is specifically meant for like making glass. And then we also work with like another tool that is called diamond shears, and those are shears that they basically create, like when they open and close, they close like this so they can cut off things. They're not like scissors. They're not like shears that work like this. They're more of this diamond shaped, and it's like you would like cut. You can like.
So it's like if there's a tube, you can sort of
like if there's like a like, let's say this is a piece of glass that's a rod and it's all hot, you could take and just nip off an end of it.
Gotcha.
Or else you could crimp it like here, maybe cool it off, and then grab it,
and
then pull it.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Because you can never physically touch the glass.
Those are your fingers.
Those are your extensions of like your like hands, right? And so I wanted to learn from the Venetians because they became the best. They weren't the like original people, but they like refined it the most. And that whole story is really amazing too, where like basically as much as I talk shit on like Venice and like the food, is that the whole glass thing is really what happened there. Became this like they basically were able to refine it so much that these glassblowers there they're one of the only sets of like people that were able to move up in class. Like they were eligible to marry royalty. I'm like pretty sure. Like in like older times, like people couldn't move up in class, or you weren't allowed to marry up in like class, but they became so wealthy. And because they had all these secrets, and if you were blowing glass in like Italy at that time, you weren't allowed to like leave. And if you escaped, they would chase you down and fucking kill you.
Because they're secrets?
Yeah.
To protect the secrets?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like a super fucking like they like had everything. They had all this knowledge.
So you went for a glassblower in Venice. And you, I don't know, were apprenticed to someone. You were
no. He actually taught at Corning Museum of Glass. And
but I'm saying previously, back in the day, like you.
Yeah, like back then, if you were living there, you were just like generational thing. You would teach, and then they were also producing like, you know, they'd be producing glass, right? So they were like, let's say, like back then they were doing some shady shit too, where like they would produce this like jewel that's cobalt blue, and they're like, oh, we fucking dug this jewel up in the middle of fucking, and no one else knew how they made it or got that color.
Never seen that before.
We've never seen that before. So there was all sorts of things where they were fucking like cashing in on like information that no one else had, or had tools or just knowledge, right?
Right.
And so the Italians became the most refined to me, right? And so I knew that if I started working with these tools that they use in like the hot shop, they're like the like flame workers that are from there. It like basically there's like, I would say in the 90s and early 2000s, people would look at glass blowing. And then there's flame working. They considered it like kind of carnival art. Like you go to the carnival and no one took it as like a real art form.
Where you're making this stuff, it's like you're making a balloon animal.
A balloon animal, or I wouldn't even like. It would just be like they used to make these like threaded things that they would build, and like it was more like gas station art. You know, it was never really taken super seriously. And then there was like the redheaded stepchild of that, which is making glass pipes. So people liked hot glass, people made fun of flame working carnival stuff, and then there's like making pipes, which is like it was just not accepted anywhere, right? And not considered like a form of like art. And so basically at some point I just decided that I was going to change that, right? And be a part of that change and be educated enough
in both in the art world and in the
and just like
focus on both of those kind of things, right?
and well just like there like became a point where I mean I'm almost like getting there in this story, is that we had this shop now, Philadelphia Glassworks in like West Philadelphia on 31st and like Spring Garden. There was supposed to be the actual like head shop, right? You know, head shop / like we're like teaching at. Operation Pipe Dreams happen. Boom. It's like not going to be that. So now we're just teaching classes. Now we're scrambling, right? I'm scrambling too. I'm like, I can't make pipes. I'm working in a place that is like an open facility. People can see me, like what I'm doing. So I start making goblets, and then I ended up like, we basically got so
you make like chalice?
I made cups. But here's the thing. Like basically, aside what happened is there was this gallery called the Snyderman Works Gallery in like Philadelphia. They threw a yearly show that was the actual like goblet exhibit. So that was one thing that I did, but that was like one thing over a year, and I might sell one or two things there, you know? There wasn't a market for goblets. And maybe until really now, like now that our scene's just grown so much, these collectors of pipes are now interested in other objects that these same artists that they have collections of. Yeah, they just like artists or like brands, because they're brands at this point. But between that, there was this there's this convention called the Glass Art Society, right? And that basically happens like once a year, and it's a rotating. They rotate it from city to like city. That has either like glass shops or like, you know, conventions where like you can go, and it's for everyone from like suppliers to the museums to the artists to like buying tools, because like even the tools were like you can like go and hold them, and like you know, like hand tools, right?
So it's like a convention.
Yeah, it's exactly like what it is. Yeah, trade show. And so we because we became this like somewhat school. We got flyers for like for, and we're like, all right, well maybe we should go there. This is like an option for us to like see what's good, and they were basically holding this like this chick named Laura Donifer from Canada. She actually puts on a glass fashion show every year at this convention, and this year it was in New Orleans. And this is right before Katrina. So this is like 2004, like 2005, something like that. And like I saw it, and that like anyone could sign up. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I don't have anything else going on. I'm gonna do this. So I ended up linking up with this chick named Janelle that just graduated from Drexel with like a fashion degree.
Nice.
Program. And we came up with basically 5 different looks for the show and went down there, and I was part of it. I didn't know what was going to happen from it. Yeah. But basically these galleries, this gallery in Philadelphia saw it and liked what I made. And 2 things really came from it is I ended up collaborating on the show, not only with her, but I collaborated with this jeweler named Michael Manthe, where we made a whole line of glass and silver and gold based jewelry for this show. And the gallery saw it, liked it, and then invited me to do my first trade show here in New York called SOFA, which was the sculpture objects functional art trade show that happens at the Armory here. And then they also invited me. There's also a Philadelphia glass collector society, and they invited me to do a fashion show during their yearly event. So fuck it, right? I mean, there was nothing else. There was still no money in this, right? I was making more money making pipes at that time before this Operation Pipe Dreams happened. So then basically, I got invited to do these things separately around the same time. And they were both involved within each other. So we went from we took the 5 looks that we had in New Orleans and we added 5 more, and then and we had this show, and I ended up I was still really fucked up at this time, and again because I kind of I relapsed again, and we ended up we got models from the local strip club to come and fucking actually be at this event, and it was fucking wild, dude. It was a shit show. There's actually some really good photos that my girlfriend has from this whole fucking event. Nice. But it was definitely really cool. But from that, they're oh, we want to bring your jewelry up to New York to this trade show. And actually that was the first time that I came to New York City without my family. I could never afford to come up, just what we were talking about before of intimidation or just financially, I couldn't,
whatever the reason.
So I fucking come up. So I literally work on this show. I'm 26 now. And
I gotta piss again.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah?
I'll
come right back.
All right. We need you a fucking catheter right here, dude.
I'm if you don't mind, I piss into a bottle of the table.
Yeah, it's all good. So then
06?
06.
06. So
I was 26.
In 06.
I think it might have been 2005, and I was 26. So yeah, so I got invited to go to this professional, high-end, sculpture objects and functional art show. I think I don't know for sure, but it's definitely one of the youngest people that have showed at this trade show.
Big wigs there.
It's the top of the line in the crafts glass, clay, it's like I said, it's sculpture objects and functional art show.
Is it
There's
what corporate-y, MoMA-y kind of vibes?
I mean, it's the top galleries that sell this stuff around the country. That sell glass and clay. Yeah, I mean, a booth is $20,000 for
Gotcha.
for one the small booth. If they're gonna ball out, they spend they're spending racks. You know what I'm saying? So
$50K for the.
Yeah, because I ended up later on in the story, I ended up vending there. I brought the first glass pipes to these trade shows.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but this will get to that. I don't know if we're gonna run out of time.
We have an hour.
Okay. I'll try and
Maybe we got about 50 minutes, I'd say.
Okay. So then basically, they bring me up to this show. They didn't bring me up. I go up myself, but they're vending my stuff there, and I go there for opening night. Didn't sell shit.
Ooh.
And I spent a lot of time and money, especially I was making jewelry with like silver and gold and diamonds and shit in there. Like I had like
So
five
you
or
were selling pipes and
no,
jewelry?
I wasn't making pipes yet. This is after I wasn't making pipes for like 2 years. I'll tell you about when I go later on, my gallery brought pipes to this event in a couple years. It hasn't happened yet. This is my first time in like New York City, really, like as like in like an adult.
So you're trying to sell jewelry?
Yeah, I'm selling jewelry from the fashion show. Like it was the only thing that was like, I had something that kept leading me like opportunities, right? And they were like, oh, like I was making some really original work, you know, but it didn't sell. I didn't sell one. And so I get back with like my tail between my legs and out of money again. I'm like, I'm tired of being broke. And I was doing things to make money on the side that, you know, probably shouldn't, right? And so I ended up like, I just hit like another like kind of a low point, right? Like I had 2 years of making stuff and like making stuff that no one wants. And I've had stuff before where I was making pipes where it was like there was like a fucking market, but because of Operation Pipe Dreams, a lot of people got scared out or like left, right? So then I like decide that I'm gonna go visit my boy Smiley, who moved to California now from Colorado. I haven't seen him in like a couple years. I would honestly go back out to like Colorado whenever I wanted to like sober up. And I would go out there and we would collab. And we were like, the first time I ever had collaboration was with this dude. And whatever, we would share our like knowledge because we were homies and we made a lot of money together. And like, and he never stopped making pipes, but we just weren't in touch. Like it was, you know,
the dead industry.
It was just like there wasn't social media. There wasn't like I didn't even have a cell phone all the time. Like my bill would, you know, I'd like lose my phone in a cab. I mean, I had 1 year I lost 13 phones in cabs.
Whoa.
Yeah, I wasn't eligible for insurance anymore. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
shit.
Yeah, I was
13 times.
Yeah, I was on one, dude. I was just like so
Sloppy.
farmied out and sloppy and like your phone's black, the fucking cab leather's black. I mean, I would just fucking lap that's it. And there's no like going back. I mean, thank God for Uber where you're like, you know who you thought, like all that shit. So things have changed a lot, you know? So then like I actually decide that like I'm going to go visit him. And he's in California in Santa Barbara. This is now 2006, okay? Yeah, because that before was 2005. So this is 2006.
Makes sense.
Okay, so I like decide that I'm going to go fly out there with like my girlfriend at like the time. She'd had never been to California. And that
so you're going to visit Smiley.
Yeah. And we made pipes together, and he's the one that kind of taught me a lot originally. And so we link up, and I get to his house and shit is just cracking, bro. My man's like, he's, you know, this is at a time where like the dispensaries are now happening in California. There's people, I went to my first store that you could buy weed at. I was blown away. You know what I'm saying? You're like, wow, like this, we're not criminals anymore. And he's making pipes and he's showing me the fucking internet. He's literally, it was like, this is a website I'm on called glasspipes.org. And this is where I sell pipes at. And I was like, wait, what? I mean, I just didn't even know that this existed. Right. And then basically we made two pieces together. Like again, and we didn't, and like he like put it under his like account that he made it with like some like
famous dude. No,
I wasn't famous. I didn't want my name attached to it because I was still so afraid of being like like indicted that it was with his old friend or mystery person or like whatever. And literally it was the first time I made like a shit ton of money in like a long time. Like I got handed like thousands of dollars again, you know. I was like, "All right, I'm back, baby." You know what I'm saying? I'm ready. I'm back in the fucking
set. Is lucrative.
Yeah. Holler at your fucking boy. I'm trying to get this money. So, then,
what's the website called?
Glasspipes.org.
Glasspipes.org.
Yeah. So then he's like, "You need to create an account and you need to start posting on there and like." and one thing that I did learn that I had for me that was actually really good is that my buddy Josh that went to like art school taught me that the most important thing is like to document your work, right? And so because we
like
have
the process,
no, the actual finished work,
the product,
yeah, like the product. So fortunately, ever since 2005, I pretty much have almost every single thing I've ever made is documented.
Nice.
So I already had images that were only for myself. They were slides. They were originally slides that were taken and then converted into digital files at that point, you know?
Yeah.
And with like digital photography it was just happening, you know?
Yeah. Rich people only.
Yeah, right? And so then like
you sold 2 pieces?
we sold 2
with Smiley.
With
you created an account.
Yeah, and because I was so scared of like having my name attached to it, and like I'm like I don't want to merge my career because I had like my name Nathan Purcell was kind of like I made it to SOFA. I was getting to where these places that I thought where I needed to like be at,
like professional.
Yeah, and I didn't want to mash my 2 careers, so I had my fucking like my graffiti name, right? So I was like, you know what? I just want to be just another glassblower. No one's ever going to look at the guy that's just another glassblower. He's just the guy who, you know, you don't notice that name. You know what I mean? And that was the whole point of like, and that's literally how my Just Another Glassblower became that. I did not want to be attached to it. So then I formed an account, and then I started from that. Was the first time that holy shit, there's all these people that are making pipes around the country. Yeah. And I started being like, I came out of nowhere because I had a career that
and you had a long documentation.
I had documentation, all this other stuff, but I didn't have any pipes really, because I wasn't really documenting my pipes until after I started documenting after Operation Pipe Dreams.
Gotcha.
So because we had this like gallery, and that's because we had the gallery, we needed stuff to like promote with and make the flyers. We made flyers and pamphlets. We were old school. We would go out and pass out flyers to fucking come to our events. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you did before the fucking social media. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah. That's the only way.
That was the only way. So I started posting on there, and then basically I found out about this glass pipe making contest in Burlington, Vermont.
Sounds about right.
At this place called the Burn Gallery. And now my friend Snick is like his like glass blowing name. He's another cat in like Philadelphia too, who's very, very talented as well. He was supposed to go, but he decided that he didn't want to be involved and bailed. And I was like, yo, do you think I can take your spot? You know? And so,
wow.
And he was like, you should hit them up. And I was literally just brand new. This was like, they've already been dealing with people have been on this website for a little bit, like maybe a year or two. You know, I just was like oblivious to it.
Okay, so the
website had nothing to do with it, but that is where people from around the country were actually talking to like each other. Because you got to think about like before then, everything was so separated. There's just these pockets of people with information, right? And that wasn't being shared.
So you could pretty much assume that people on the glass blowers on the Glass website, they're going to be at this.
Some of these guys were. So and this is basically like where like a huge all sorts of shit jumps off from like here. So so they accept me to like come. I go up there with like my like girlfriend at the time, and I ended up coming in last place. Like I fucking like totally broke my piece and fucking like totally fucked up. Wow. But I came in last place with this other dude named Slinger, who ended up becoming one of my really good friends. Now he does documentary film. He blows glass as well. He's actually from Long Island, and he's 5 years older than like me. So, but we grew up in the same generation. We went to raves. He went to like the raves in New York. He grew up during the punk era and saw like, you know, graffiti on the trains, and like, you know, he saw New York bombed, you know, like back then. Yeah. Right. And so we actually, like, when we got up there and we met, we actually really clicked, because what happened is that most of like the glass pipe scene was really, I would say, more hippie. And we were from in urban cities, like both of us. Like, and so we just clicked instantly, where we were like, oh, you're from a city, an urban city, and you're like kind of way into art, not just like hippie art or like whatever. And like, just, we had similar interest and goals. And then so I started making pipes again, and then I started having like all these crazy revelations. And at the same time, I was like, I'm trying to take my gallery to the next level and start showing pipes, that I started basically seeing that now at this point I've been blowing glass like, I don't know, like 8 years now, 9 years. So I like, and other people around me were too. So people like started to actually get really good and start to like be able to make pipes that they were like definitive styles. Like you could recognize like, oh, this was made by like this person. Someone else, I think it was this other artist named Banjo, quoted it in this film. Basically, we were able to start talking through our work, right? Like we were able conversations. Yeah, we could start having conversations. Like,
okay,
like you know what I'm saying? Like you could just start making people feel emotions, or have a body of work or a subject matter, like, and whatever. So we ended up being it all just became this perfect recipe where we met up there. But I saw on glasspipes.org that he was traveling around the like US and was producing and documenting and was producing what came out to be Degenerate Art, which is a documentary film on glass pipe making in the United States.
Okay. And
I saw that he was doing that, and that was a goal for like him, which lined up with my goals as well.
Document my shit.
well, it was just like we had the same goals of like I wanted my gallery to like take this work to the next level and explain to people, you know, like we're gonna like it came to this point where basically there was your work was next to a dildo at a smoke shop. And then the galleries, the more classical galleries, wouldn't accept it because it was a pipe, even though it was like beautiful or crafted, like amazing, and it was like actually like. So I was like, yo, fuck this. I'm gonna start showing pipes and be the first gallery to ever show this shit professionally, right? And so, and then basically like after that contest and we like became friends. We stayed in like touch, right? And I was like, yo, we're gonna do some big shit together. Yeah. and so then basically like after that he was still living in, he was actually, I mean, he has a whole nother story. This is a guy that I really want you to interview too. Okay,
cool. What's his name?
Slinger.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Philly or?
Yeah. I mean, he lives in like Philly now, and he'll talk your ear off too.
Word.
So
love to meet him.
Yeah, he's a good guy, and he won't. You just feed him coffee and fucking weed. He'll be fucking going all day. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna come out to Philly and check.
Yeah, you like definitely should.
Word.
So he was like doing this documentary film. And I was basically like, holy shit, so you're like doing this. But he was living in Canada as an illegal immigrant there, and decided that he was going to move back to New York City and open up a glassblowing studio after this contest, and was like, he was tired of living like illegal up there, because he was in like BC doing his thing. Doing his thing, you know what I'm saying? He'll tell his story, you know what I'm saying? Like, which is an amazing, like, it's a great story too.
Okay, cool.
But and randomly, and this is, so he went to college at, oh my God, it's like in the middle of like New York. I forget what the fuck it's called, but it's like a hippie college, I want to say. It's near Corning. I forget the fucking name.
It's in New York?
In New York, yeah, like not New York City. It's in like middle of
Ithaca.
Ithaca. He went to college there, right? And so I ended up, before I go up to this contest, right? We're starting to talk on like MySpace and like this glass pipe star. So literally one day I learned how to use the internet one day, and like literally one day, my basically like my friends that worked in like my like gallery, they all decided to go, and I couldn't leave. I had to work it. And then I was finally like, after I got back from Smiley's trip, I'm like, I'm going to figure out the fucking internet. So I fucking figured out how to use the internet. I literally had no idea how to use a computer at all. I learned how to use MySpace and Glasspipes.org. Those were my first things. Like 2 websites to understand like what what was going on. But those were the things that we started.
Isn't it crazy to think about where like MySpace was and where we're at with social media?
Oh my God, I know. It's like worlds away, dude.
Leaps and bounds. Anyways.
So those were places to get our work out there, right? And I could like, now it's like, okay, this is now like reaching out.
So you had a glass blowing MySpace.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Word. Yeah. And so then like he was like, I'm going to like move back to New York. But before I got up to the actual contest, our main coffee shop near where like my studio was, and in this neighborhood that was budding, which was actually before Fishtown, it was called Northern Liberties. So
Northern Liberties?
Yeah. So this is was going to be the Arts District, but this happened like right around 2005, and there was the 2008 economic crash and all this shit, and all this kind of collides to where basically we moved there on a side note because the first spot in like West Philly, once we got it together, the guy sold the actual building and wouldn't let us sign a lease because it was in my lease. I was so young and naive. I signed a lease that saying that the building's for sale and if they sell it, like, you know, whatever. And then so the new guy was such a slumlord that he wouldn't fucking let us sign a lease. He just said, oh, you can stay here, but we're trying to have classes and all this shit, that we end up deciding to, like, we left and we weren't on like a lease. And he's like, as soon as we like signed another lease somewhere else, then he was like, oh, now do you want to stay? I'm like, dude, you would fuck off. So we left. So we moved to this neighborhood. We had a local coffee shop there that everyone met at in the morning, like not on purpose, but you know, you go get your fucking coffee like every fucking day at the same spot, you know? And so the girl that actually owned the like coffee shop went to college with Slinger. Okay. Like randomly, like super like
out of the blue.
In Ithaca.
Same time.
Yeah. They were like, he dated her best friend that lives that I knew in Philly too, which was so strange. So we ended up having this fucking tie. And then basically when like he like decided like after this contest, he went back to like Canada.
That he went back to Canada?
He went back because his shit was still there, like from the contest. Like he flew from Canada and was doing this documentary film that he was writing through the United States, stopped in the contest, did the contest, and still was living in Canada. Decided to like go back, and he was going to move back to the United States to finish up this film and like go back to New York. That's where he wanted to be in Brooklyn or whatever. But like opening up a glass shop with no money in Brooklyn is pretty much like damn near next to impossible.
Totally.
So I was like, yo, afterwards, like, you should come the fuck down. So he ended up coming down and moved. He literally came on New Year's one year, and he's just been living there for 14 years now, or like, you know. We became like super best friends, right? Nice. And we just have like our trajectories in our career path were very similar. And so he moved down, and he was producing this film, and I was actually, all right, you're doing this, like, I want to help be pushing our shit forward too. So I started showing pipes and having shows that had pipes in them. We weren't an actual pipe gallery yet, but I was like, yo, we're going to go to SOFA. And at the same time, he introduced me to these little books that Banksy produced. They're like these like little like zine type books that were like really small. And one thing that I didn't know about graffiti that much. He really taught me a lot. Like, that was not like, I just was consuming art, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know much about it, and he comes from someone that is just more educated, and that's his, like, he's into it and he's done it, whatever. So and I ended up reading like in a thing in this book. What Banksy did was that he was going into museums and like putting his work in museums, right? Like post, like, you know, like trench coat style, just documenting like, it, boom, and having like a tag, you know, and then like documenting it and all this, and like forcing his work onto people. And I took that and ran with it, dude. So I was like, oh my God, like our glass pipe thing is so, like, I was still making pipes. I worked in like a public facility, right, where anyone could see what we were doing. So I had to still, I started making all my pipes. How I got to be more famous for what I do is I made all these pipes that don't look like pipes. So when I was making them in the window and people were walking by, they have no idea.
Artwork.
It's just artwork.
Glass art.
Yeah.
With
So
the carve and the slide.
so then like because I was the photographer as well of my work, of documenting all my work, I was the designer and photographer. I started to basically apply for all these things, from fucking grants, classes, to fucking like contests, to art auctions that I like entered, that I started putting all these glass pipes in and like documenting that. And so basically I was like, I'm going to push this medium forward. Like I'm going to start putting pipes everywhere that said that they hated them and that they would never let that happen. And I'm going to pull the wool over everyone's eye. And I did it, and I documented all of it. I did it like a ton of times, like with all different institutions. I had an institution called Pilchuck Glass School that they like have like an annual glass art auction every year. And I like put work in their auction. Like a lot of these places, when you submit, you only send slides, like you send like the digital, like a photo. So
you can frame it.
Yeah, you can frame it as much as you want. So I got accepted. I got into the silent auction there. I was in a live auction literally like a week before that at like another spot with like pipes. And these things were going for thousands of fucking dollars.
Nice.
And so then like I like when they unpacked my work that night, they're like, holy shit, we're fucking selling a pipe. It's already in the book. People are already like, so, and I sold all my shit, whatever. And like, I never really heard back from like the institution, like about it. Then in like 2013, the Wall Street Journal hit me up, and I became part of like this article that they were writing on like glass pipes in like America. So they interviewed me. I told a very similar story to what I'm like telling you up to that point in like 2013, and they basically contacted the like institution and let them know that they had pipes in it, and actually asked for like quotes about what they thought about it. And they were like, well, we didn't know, like we would have never accepted it, and blah 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 blah. And like it was cool. I got to like sneak in shit and just like,
you got your fix.
I got my fix of just basically like being like, you think that you hate something because you have these mental barriers and like parameters, but I offer you something beautiful, and like it's looks can be deceiving, right? So like, But that's where like I was at. I was trying to push our shit into places and institutions that didn't accept it. So
Totally, yeah.
So I've always played the role of like showing my own work, everyone else's work. So then like at that same time, I actually there's this artist that was retiring at like the same year that I was really popping off in like 2007. This is like my career was like on the fucking trajectory up. Like I was traveling the fucking country, going to all these art events, putting pipes into all these places that had never ever happened before.
That was like your goal. That was your
like I've learned that shit about Banksy, and I was like, I'm gonna force my shit onto people, and they're not even gonna fucking know. And I'm gonna fucking make him like feel like they love it, and like just pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Like I love the devious shit, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like it was a rush, right? It was just like, okay, like I'm like break new ground here, right? And I had it all documented, like have it all documented, you know what I mean? So that, because I am going to be putting together a book soon, a lot about this whole story, like going through all this and just like talking about it, right? Like because I lived in so many different places that my mind's organized to like all the events and where they happened at, and I want to get it all out before I start forgetting, right?
Totally,
or like, so things like this are actually really good for me too.
Totally. That's the idea. It's just like, document artists. That's like you're saying, like I want to document you know.
Well, I am glad to like be like here and be able to share my fucking craziness like
man.
with you. So then at that same time, there's this artist named William Morris. He was a famous soft glass blower. He blew glass in like the like other way that we've talked about before. But he was retiring at that time. He retired at 45, become one of the illest like American glass makers ever. Like he's still one of the fucking best. He's been retired for a long time now, but he influenced the whole glass art scene in like the US, like heavy. And so I was inspired by like his like work, and so I was taking a lot of the techniques that he was doing and implementing it in my own work of having texture and making things look more like relics and dug up like they were like found objects, and using a lot of textures, getting away from the glassy glass of bright colors and smoothness, and they were all matte finish. Everything was sandblasted and whatnot. But basically, like I just pulled some crazy shit that it wasn't even that crazy. I just don't think anyone ever thought of. But I went to his web store, right? And he was retired at this point, but he still had all the galleries that repped him. And I basically was like, oh my God, here's just a list of all the people that sell his stuff. I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to send them an email with pictures of my work where it doesn't, I mean, they're pipes, but you can't tell. But it's in a similar look to what
he was doing,
what he was actually doing. I didn't really hear anything back for maybe like a month or two. And then randomly, I get a fucking hit. This guy hits me up. He's like, dude, we love your work. We want to bring you to SOFA Chicago, which is now like the main show from SOFA New York. SOFA, the one happens in like the summer here, and then or in the winter here. No, in the summer here, and then or like spring here, and then in the fall in Chicago. Okay. It's the same company that like puts on this trade show or whatever. And he's like, yo, I want to bring you to SOFA. I want to bring your work there. I'm like, okay, but just so you know, like these are all pipes. And he was just, honestly, his name was is the Thomas Riley Gallery, and he's and that gallery is now defunct. But basically, he was an older guy, and I don't think he just.
He didn't know what it meant?
I just don't think he knew what it meant or cared. You know, like I don't know exactly, but I ended up like. Literally within 3 weeks, I did one art auction. It was all 2007, and I ended up going back to that contest too, and I got first place in one the next year. Tight. I won the torch that I work on. Then right after that, I did the Liberty Museum auction where like I put my first pipe in there, and that was an actual live auction. And it was sold for like $3,300, and then the next week was the Pilchuck auction, and my piece was in like the silent auction there, and it sold for $4,200 there. Nice. And
Good
then
week.
and then 2 weeks after that, I was going to SOFA Chicago with this gallery that was bringing my like work there for the first time, and like. I didn't sell anything the opening night, but like the next day I sold a fucking $8,000 piece to a fucking doctor that had no idea what the hell he bought until I saw him 2 years later with my gallery that I brought these pipes at, and he's like, yo, my fucking son told me I bought like an $8,000 pipe. It's sitting on his mantle.
You're like, I win. Yeah, I just won.
Well, yeah, totally. You know, so like, you know, so I've constantly at that same time. So I was trying to bring. I was trying to like not just bring my work, because there's honestly, it's not just me. There's a whole squad of people that have now been doing this long enough that are really fucking good, that all have their own styles, that all needed to be. It wasn't just me bringing myself and being selfish. I'm gonna bring my whole crew, totally. And it's better that way in like the like long run. So at like the same time, I brought these people to these trade shows. It was 2008. Everything bombed. Like we spent a bunch of money on getting these fucking $20,000 booths and fucking failed. We didn't sell shit. Even though the 2007, I fucking sold the most expensive thing I ever sold of like my stuff the year before. Then we go there and I bring all these other artists, and basically shit got fucked up. And then like Slinger is still working on like his like documentary film. It's like not out yet. And then we basically like we did Sofa Chicago 2008. And we left with like this, like with our tail between our legs. Like we failed. Like I felt like we like failed. We didn't sell shit. We had all these people make all this work, all these pipes. We were gonna fucking change the world, you know, and fucking like it just didn't fit in. Like these people were too reserved for like, it was like an older white rich crowd, and like it just,
the jig was up. Yeah,
the jig was up. You know what I'm saying? So then like literally 2000, like we decided that we were gonna do Sofa New York here, and we were gonna bring pipes, and we did it a lot smarter. We brought like lower price items. We like really catered it more, and we did pretty good. And basically I ended up selling a set of pipe figures. Like they're like these women pipes that like I made. They're long and like slender. And I was at like the like trade show there, and we did okay. I don't even think we broke even, but we at least made some money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
better than the year before.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, it was the other year was just a wash. You know what I'm saying? So then they I ended up seeing like, I remember seeing this beautiful like woman coming down the like down like the trade show like aisle, coming towards my stuff, and she looks at my stuff, and I just knew that she was not walking away with it. She was like a tall, slender lady. She was like buying herself. You know what I'm saying? Whoo! Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You're
so
like, got her.
Yeah. So she fucking bought them, and she lived in New York City here, like on like the Upper West Side. So I never documented it. It was like, I got them done really late. So I was like, listen, I'm going to bring them back to like Philadelphia. I'm going to shoot them, and then I'm going to like bring them up to you next weekend. And she was like, that's fine. She like paid us, whatever. I went back, documented. So then I came back up to like New York. This is now the like third time that I've been up. I only came up for the one failure trade show I did. Came back this time for another one that did okay, that I was the gallery that brought other artists there. Mm-hmm. And like other pipes to ever show the first time. Like Thomas Riley Gallery was the first gallery that ever showed pipes. He showed my stuff at theirs, but then we were the first gallery to bring other artists with me, right? Mm-hmm. And so then when like I like came back up in like 2009, I ended up hitting up one of my friends, Corinne, that I was like, she was friends with like my like girlfriend from in Philadelphia a couple girlfriends ago. Like we were like remained friends. And she's like, oh, you can crash on my couch. She lived in Brooklyn. I was like, all right, I'm gonna drop these off. So then like I like come up, I bring these figures up, and it's 2009, right? And I like come up, and I go to her like lavish apartment. She buys them, and I'm like, damn, like the market's in New York City. I'm like, and like New York City is the heart of the fucking art world, right?
Yeah. Real money too.
Yeah, like big real money. Yeah. So then basically the I ended up meeting up with like one of my friends, Corinne, and we ended up going to the Lower East Side to like walk around, and we ended up going on St. Mark Street. And this is now 2009. It's been a couple of years since Operation Pipe Dreams, right? And they're openly selling pipes on the street. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're like selling like pipe, like, you know,
pipe pipes,
you know, like straight clear bongs, like just like,
Chillums,
you know,
all the
like everything, not anything near where we were like breaking ground with, right? And I was like, I just sold that piece here, and then our gallery in Philly was not doing well ever. Mm-hmm. Like ever. It was just like always like we tried, you know, but it just, and then with the whole 2008 shit, like
it crushed it.
It just crushed a lot of hope. And we literally, it was like a Hail Mary. I came with this idea. I'm like, you know what? We're going to go to New York City, and we're going to fucking open up a glass pipe gallery, and we're going to be the first glass pipe gallery strictly showing glass pipes in Brooklyn. Uh-huh. And if this street, St. Mark's, can openly sell fucking these bongs and clear pipes and not get shut down,
so can we.
We can fucking do this.
Yeah, totally.
So we decided to open up Easy Street in Brooklyn on Bedford and Grand, right across from where the now Supreme store is. Okay. Like on like the same block. And you know, then we started making money. We honestly, the first shows we had, we made some money, but our rent was still really high there. Like, and you know what? We were just the first, right? We were the first, so it was like, but
figuring everything out.
And when you're the first, it's
There's
not
no
all.
rules.
And it doesn't always work out too. You know,
exactly.
So like. We had a couple really good shows, and we had the best shows we'd ever had and made the most money we ever had at this gallery compared to like 5 years at another gallery where we like barely sold shit. We were trying everything from working, like having classes to like
anything
anything we could do to like working with interior designers and like getting them work and whatnot. So I was like, all right, we're going to take the last of our money and to go up here and fucking like try this. And we did it and documented. Honestly, we fucking changed the fucking industry because now people literally took my business model and have been using it all through the United States at this point. And even like the look, like there's actual, like we made these like certain style of, I helped design these certain style cases that we showed like the glass in. Basically it was it would be like a 3x3 by 4 foot pedestal, like a large one. And then we put these like, we got metal framed cases that were like 3x3x3 cubes, right? That were like 3 foot by 3 foot cubes that sat on top that locked. And then we had a bunch of mini pedestals, like little 4x4 inch by 4 inch blocks and 4x8 inch blocks to kind of like arrange it and like have all of the pipes in there. And
you've seen that duplicated.
Oh yeah. So like the first like shoot offs from that was like another space that I actually had, and I like them. This isn't like talking shit. It was just like, you know, there's not a like in like the like weed industry. There's not a lot of designers, right? It's more of like they're either ex-drug dealers or fucking whatever. They're not like coming from the design world. So people just see something and they just like think that that's the only way to do it or whatever. So basically this place called the High Priority. They were Goosefire Gallery in like Long Beach, which I've actually had a show there and did really well. And like I became friends with Matt. He came out to one of our first shows and saw it and was like, I'm going to go back to Long Beach and do this. And they used a very similar design. And then there was like a trade show that was put on in Las Vegas that one of those guys that owned the like trade show called The Big Show came out to his gallery and saw those cases and then mocked those cases and brought them to the trade shows. So you could literally see the progression of like the same idea getting repeated over. And then
that happens. That's
I'm not even upset. I'm glad because you know what? We didn't even have like business practices and business standards within our like industry
to do anything about that. You
know, or anything. There just wasn't just like people used to like send glass before they got paid and just were like, okay, we'll send them and hopefully they'll pay us because the shops had the upper hand. Then finally these artists became brands and that people wanted, that now the artists have the upper hand now.
They're making the product that people
and like I don't send shit out until it's fully paid for and they're paying for shipping. You know what I'm saying? Like before that you'd be like, all right, I'll take care of shipping just because you're buying it. I fucking need you know what I'm saying?
I'll do it.
Oh yeah, you know what I mean? So I mean times have changed, you know?
Word.
And so basically once we got like I opened up the fucking gallery and then right after that Slinger was still working on like his like film. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to produce a fucking book. So I like produced Smoked Volume 1, which was the first documentary book on glass pipe making in the United States. There's been a couple like another guy named Paco, which is actually Slinger's brother, produced like a little book on just his own work, but this was the first book that was like on a whole scene. So I like curated this whole exhibit. I actually worked with the graphic designer that I learned art from at UArts. This was our first collaborative project to like produce this high-end book. So we produced Smoke Volume 1 where I was the contact for all these artists. We got them to ship us one piece. We documented it, made the book, shipped all the work and the books to California and had an exhibit there.
Whoa.
and so we had an exhibit with all the work that was in the books.
Wow.
And like released the books at the same time. And I ended up selling about like 15,000 books.
That's dope.
Yeah. So, and that was the first time that like our industry was basically bundled up into something that you could hand someone a product, and they could read about what's really palatable and like happening. And between the gallery and this book, helped change our whole industry. And then finally Slinger got his film done in like 2011. And basically he linked up with the same crew that put out Exit through the gift shop, and they're the one that distributed. So they got him into South by Southwest release, and he won like a screening, and that's where they first screened it at, and he won like an award there like for documentary film. Nice. And then it was picked up by Netflix, and then it was shown on Netflix for about 5 or 6 years.
Whoa.
And then that changed all of our careers forever.
Dope.
Like between like that and then what he was doing, and that
everyone on the map.
Yeah, between the books, these galleries, and then this documentary film, like help like it spread our shit like wildfire.
So what's the name of the movie?
It's called Degenerate Art. And it's the art it's called Degenerate Art. The glass, I forget, but you can plug it, look it up. It's actually free on like YouTube. He like allowed someone to actually like someone else put it up, and he just leaves it on there so people can see it now.
He's not too worried about it anymore.
Yeah. But I think he's actually putting it back on Amazon. You can put it on because you can self-publish on Amazon now.
Okay, cool.
And I think it's gonna go on like Amazon, and you'll be able to purchase. Maybe it might be a higher def thing or something. I'm not really sure.
Word. All right, I think we probably got to wrap up.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, honestly, it's like that's kind of where like.
Yeah, that's where the story. Yeah.
I mean,
and we'll definitely have to get you back. I kind of started with the traveling stories, and we didn't really go there.
I know, but a lot of it
again.
Yeah, I'm down
for sure.
There. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to plug? Your Instagram?
I mean, yeah, my Instagram is JustAnotherGlassblower, and then my gallery is Just Another Gallery. We actually have a group exhibit coming up on April 11th, and we're doing an ashtray exhibit, and we're going to be featuring 82 artists from basically around the world. I got a guy from Barcelona, and England, and then the rest are like from the United States.
Dope. Yeah. And that's in Philly?
It's gonna be virtually, but yes,
okay.
In Philadelphia is like where I'm actually gonna like run the actual virtual space from.
All right. We gotta figure out a way to collab on that.
You should come down.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think like realistically, the show might be broken up into 3 days, because I'm gonna go live on like Instagram, with the actual show, and then I'm basically gonna tour people through it because we have so many artists involved. I don't want to I think it's too long for people, so I'm gonna break it up to do 30 artists a day instead of like all 80 artists in one time, and then all of the work will be available on JustAnotherGallery.shopify.com.
Dope.
And it'll be released each day. We'll like release 30 artists worth of work, and then the next day I'll do another live feed and then show the work, and it'll the other 30 artists work will be available, and then we'll do it one more day.
All right.
Because it's just it's a lot of work that I want to highlight people more than just shoving them all together in one day. It's just a lot of stuff. So. All right. Well, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and we got to figure out a way to. I think I got some ideas I'll talk to you about. But,
yeah, that sounds great.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No problem, bro.
Story. I never have been so entranced in a story about glass blowing.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I've got some friends that got some pretty crazy stories too. I mean, we come from like a total fucking like culture of just like boys. I mean, there was no rules. So
all right. So we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, sounds good. Peace.